We are live. It's been a busy 48 hours in the world of professional wrestling since I was last with you. Johnny Gargano has returned to NXT and will compete at Stand and Deliver going against Grayson Waller. We've got a brand new TNT champion in AEW of Powerhouse Hobbs. We've had a Bullet Club tease from AEW, Juice Robinson attacking Ricky Starks this past week on Dynamite. Could there be something more into that? It leads to the question, what is the future of Jay White? Of course, he's no longer with New Japan. Is he on his way to AEW to represent Bullet Club, or is he on the way to WWE? Bryan Danielson has decided to go home. We've got the main event for Stand and Deliver as well. Bron Breakker, I say Bronson Reed there. Bron Breakker versus Carmelo Hayes. And there's been so much more in the wrestling news going on. So it's your show. It's your place to get involved with your questions here today. Get them involved. And I've got a special guest with me here today. Of course, I am supporting the mighty West Ham United. I'm very pleased to have this person on the channel for the very first time. He's got 3 YouTube channels that I'm going to plug for you right now. One to do with wrestling himself. It's a top mark after all. He does TV and topical videos with a top lad. And where I've first seen him from is from a channel from West Ham United, where he does transfer rumor videos. He does live watch-alongs with every single game. He's always got a good opinion about football, but also got a good opinion about wrestling. It is none other than the one, the only Charlie. Welcome to SCW. Hope you're doing well.
I think it's the first time anyone's ever said I've got a good opinion about football, so I will take that very happily. And next time anyone tries to say anything in the chat, I will be saying, well, Steve said that I had a good opinion about football, so you lot can hush your gums. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you here. And obviously for those that are seeing for the first time right now, maybe you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I have a cutout of Danny DeVito next to me. That's something I've just realised is still up from the watch along earlier. I didn't realise I didn't take that down. Yeah, so I do lots of different things. Way too often, I work way too hard on these things, but mostly, like you say, I'm known for West Ham stuff, I guess. Watch alongs for every match and then every videos whenever it's needed with Hammers Chat. And then I do stupid videos on A Top Lad, which I don't know. They're just dumb ideas when they're in my head. They come out. And then I have A Top Mark, which is something that should exist more frequently than it does. But time is of the essence. And as you know, making YouTube videos is harder than it seems. And with everything else that's going on, it's nowhere near as frequent. Although I can't act like I don't have that forever itch in the back of me, especially with Mania coming up and stuff at the moment. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, I do stuff online. I'm an idiot. I apologise. You know, we move.
Well, for me, I always enjoy the content that you put out. And like you say there, Top Mark is the one which would be devoted to professional wrestling. So where does that journey for professional wrestling start for you? Where did that fandom creep in?
I think so. When I grew up, I was lucky to be alive during the Attitude Era and actually see it, even though I was way too young to be watching it. There was I think, you know, when you're a kid and you just have a friend who's, well, you say a friend, they're like 10 years older than you, so you obviously look up to them massively. And to you, they're like the best person that exists ever. There was a kid who lived above me in the flat above mine who was about, like I say, 5-10 years older than me. I don't know exactly how many years. But he was super into wrestling from way back. And then I obviously got super into it because he was into it and he lent me all his old VHSs. I used to watch WrestleMania 10 back on loop repeatedly. And then, yeah, just started watching whenever I could. And it sort of slowly grew from there. So the tail end of the Attitude Era onwards sort of thing. Fell out of love with it for a bit, as everyone, I think, well, a lot of people tend to when they get to like sort of secondary school, college age, but stopped watching WWE, carried on watching like sort of bits and pieces from independents like Ring of Honor and stuff. And then it was really the CM Punk pipe bomb that got me, that hooked me fully back in. And from then on, it's just been non-stop.
Absolutely. Now, I can say to you that the pipe bomb for me was a big moment of where, you know, I was sort of questioning the fandom around that time. Obviously, there was a lot of Cena stuff going on and sort of winning every show after the Nexus and stuff. For me, the CM Punk stuff was a breath of fresh air, and that was for me like you're back into the game, and all of a sudden there we are. We're 10, 12 years later, and we're still talking about WWE. We're still talking about CM Punk, obviously with AEW as well. So there's lots that's been going on there. But no, that's really cool. Is there any sort of favorite sort of pay-per-views, favorite wrestlers, anything like that maybe?
I was going to say, with Cena, it's always weird for me because when I left, he was US champion feuding with like Carlito, and it was like WrestleMania 20 times. So like,
yeah,
oh, here's this guy, and then he comes back and he's like the biggest thing in the world, which felt very odd to me coming back in. But yeah, I love a rumble. Any rumble I'll take, even bad rumbles. I just like rumbles. I just love a good rumble. I'm going to the Rev Pro show in London the end of this month. They're doing a rumble, and again, I just love a rumble. So any of them really. I think favorite wrestlers. I mean, Eddie Guerrero was my favorite growing up and continues to be. I just can't. Just the cheekiness of the guy, I guess. It's just something that connects with me on a deep personal level for some reason. And at the moment, anything really. I think it's one of those things where, when you're younger, you enjoy it for whatever reason you enjoy it, like the Attitude Era is just insane madness going on. And I think now I've just grown to love like every aspect of it. I think there's no one thing that I love more than anything else now. You give me a 10-minute match full of absolute shenanigans, I'm having the best of times. You give me a 25-minute Matt classic with Zack Sabre Jr. or whatever, I'm having a grand old time. So literally anything and everything now. But probably of all time, just any rumble, man. I just love rumbles.
You're not alone. I love a rumble as well. If there's any time that I'm taking the plane journey, say it's like for 3 or 4 hours, there's 3 or 4 rumbles being played during that just to make sure I can get through the time quickly. It's the best easy pastime ever. I'm with you. A Royal Rumble is a good way to go. And that show for Rev Pro at the end of the month there, a fun independent show I mentioned to go to as well there. So, I mean, just quickly then, before we go into our chat and we start bringing some questions in, would you say then that you're following pretty much anything and everything, every sort of promotion there is right now?
Try to. Obviously it's limited time and there's more wrestling now than there ever has been, and with the access to the internet now, you can watch random independents from even America that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise, and so it's kind of impossible to keep up with everything you want to, or at least I want to, but I try to. I mean, I'll watch WWE and AEW every week. I'll watch New Japan shows whenever I can. I'll watch basically everything. There's stuff, even bits of Impact where I go, I should be watching more of this because I enjoy it, but I only end up watching the big matches sort of thing. But yeah, I try to keep up with everything because I think we're in a beautiful time right now where nothing is that bad. Like, because there's been times over the last decade or longer where like at least one of the major promotions, if not both of them, if not all of them, have been really bad. Whereas right now, everything's pretty good. Even like WWE's come back out of their sort of Vince McMahon era into something that's actually really good at the moment. AEW is really good at the moment, despite the fact it's missing a lot of its big pieces. It's still like the actual day-to-day, week-to-week shows are really good. Everything is just good. And it's kind of mad to me because I'm so used to having conversations with my wrestling friends and just being like, yeah, that was really bad, wasn't it? And just having that cathartic moment. I mean, we're both West Ham fans, so we understand having a cathartic moment of just going, this is awful. But, at the moment, we're really lucky and everything's good. And I kind of, if there's something on and I have the time, I will 100% be watching it, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are kind of in a blessed time right now. Like you said, there's so much good stuff out there for people to find and people to see. So I mean, like we're in a good time, and obviously WrestleMania on the way. We just come off Revolution. Impact is a big show. Rebellion coming up in April as well. So there's good times coming. And one thing that's also given us some good times coming is our chat. So we'll just quickly come and say hello to everyone that's here. Thank everyone that's taking the time as always to come and check out these videos. Really, truly does mean a lot. Jonesy with the first comment in with a number of questions saying, "Hi guys." Jonesy will answer all those questions throughout the show as best as we can when we can get round to them. Ghost Spider 2003 in house as well says, "What's up, guys? We are doing very well. Thank you for checking that stream. Hope you are doing well." And Noob and Code TV also saying hello also, and hope you're doing well, Noob. Thank you for checking out the stream. We've even got Richard Robes in there also. So we'll start then with a few questions that have come in, and I mean, let's start off with one I think is quite actually could work quite well actually for what we're looking to do with here. Which free agents would you sign and debut at WrestleMania this year, like they did with Cody Rhodes last year? And that's from Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Is there anything that sort of springs to mind for you?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head people who are three, because I think the reason why it works so well with Cody, I think they did the sort of like everyone knew it was happening, so you have that, you get the joy of both anticipating it and then it happening. Because if something is announced beforehand, it's still fun. But if something, it's like when CM Punk came back, right? You had that sort of beautiful double element of like, we all knew it was about to happen, but you still get that, oh my God, it happened when it happens. And I think with Cody, it was the same thing. But also, he's such a known quantity that like, it makes that moment more impactful. So, for example, I'm thinking in my head like Jay White, right? You've someone that's going to come up probably, AEW, all this stuff's going on at the moment. I don't know if him debuting at Mania would be as big a deal, because he's not at that Cody level, despite being such a good wrestler. He's just not quite that ethereal sort of everything that he has. I don't know if there's anyone who would be as great as that, but I mean, I'm trying to even think who's 3 at the moment. It feels like every single wrestler in the world is signed to AEW, so I'm struggling to think of who's even 3 at the moment.
There's one that comes to mind. Jay White would probably be my answer, but I think you made a great point there off the bat there, saying Cody'd been there for a number of years. He'd gone through his main events with Legacy and stuff like that. He had that sort of comeback, feeling where it's like, we want to see him succeed. Same as with Drew McIntyre. So I like where you've gone with that. But someone that has been in WWE before, but didn't have the mass audience, so it could fall into the same category, is Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi is someone, obviously, that was in the Cruiserweight Classic back in 2016. So some portion of the audience would know. The only thing that would go in favor of either of those names coming in my opinion, at WrestleMania, is you have the most hardcore of hardcore fans all under one roof. So they probably would recognize that name. It's whether the people at home then would go, well, everyone else cheering there, I need to get behind this guy that comes in. But do you think that perhaps maybe Kota Ibushi could be one?
Yeah, I'd love to see. I'd be interested to see what would happen, because part of me just thinks of him as being like perfectly built for AEW, just because their focus is on matches, I guess. But I would love to see what would happen, and obviously Triple H loves him because he was at the Cruiserweight Classic. He's obviously someone who has been admired for a long time, and I would like to see just what would happen. Again, the introduction would be interesting, but I guess actually there's an argument. You were just making the point about it being like the hardest of the hardcore being there a lot of the time. Yeah. Maybe it is the perfect way to introduce someone like that, or even Jay White, where it's people will definitely know who that is. We saw a little bit, I mean, it's maybe harsh to say, but I think Johnny Gargano has maybe not got as hot a reaction on the main roster as I thought he should have, given how good he is. And I think part of that is maybe there's some people in the audience who just weren't aware of what he did because they just don't watch NXT or whatever. Whereas if you bring him in, if you bring, say, Kota, for example, in at Mania, the people will definitely know who that is 1000%, because the hardest of the hardcore are there. I'd be interested to see what he would do in WWE.
I would be as well. I feel that for Jay White, obviously there are some previous former Bullet Club leaders in there, like Finn Balor, AJ Styles. I mean, that's some natural feud you could go with. Maybe a feud with Cody Rhodes, or I think for me a dream match would be Seth Rollins. I'd love to see him on the Raw side have matches like that. I think there would be a lot of potential, certainly in and amongst that, if he was to come in. Kota Ibushi doesn't seem, for me, would be a big time deal, but obviously it's how you book him. Obviously, Saraya has just left NXT. She's announced, obviously, and she's going to looks like she's going back to Stardom from what I've read on Twitter. But you look and see that it's a bit hit and miss sometimes when people are brought over. Obviously, Asuka's been very popular, has worked out tremendously well. Io Sky's been another one. But then you look, for example, like Kushida. Kushida really didn't get the same rub at the time he was over there. So it's interesting how people would be used and how they would be booked if they were to come in. But we mentioned Jay White there, and Noob and Co. Actually, with his first comment here saying that, so is the Bullet Club going to be in AEW and they might face the Elite? So this is pretty much a little bit of speculation station for me. I'm not going to lie to you. Obviously, we had Juice Robinson attack Ricky Starks, and everyone went mad because the Bullet Club music hit last night on Dynamite. And I think everyone thought the same thing. Is Jay White debuting here? It got to a point where I think a lot of people thought he's definitely going to WWE, but perhaps maybe with that there, you think, well, he's going to debut here. But we had the Juice Robinson attack. For me, I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's been booked the best so far in AEW or part with Ring of Honor. And I feel that this could, though, to make it better long term, would be nicer if perhaps Juice Robinson starts the build to where Jay White is brought in and we actually have the Bullet Club a part of AEW. Because like we said there, the Elite are a part of this as well, Kenny and the Bucks. And there's natural feuds to go with that side as well. We mentioned former Bullet Club leaders and former Bullet Club members. So am I just living in a pipe dream here, or could there actually be something to this?
I think there could be something. It seemed obvious that Jay White was potentially going to WWE, although I was never 1000% convinced. But it is sort of still, if you asked me to like put a bet on it, then I would probably say WWE. But it's maybe 60-40, 70-30. It's not like 100% or anything in my brain. I think what's interesting to me with like the Bullet Club and more generally with how New Japan book their stables, but I think Bullet Club is one of the more interesting ones just because it's across so many different promotions. Like it just exists everywhere seemingly. Is they are fairly consistent with it. So for example, when they were doing stuff in Impact, for example, and they were having their own like Impact Bullet Club storylines, they did it's not like they were ignoring them in New Japan. It did sort of play out that way. We saw Wrestle Kingdom this year, for example, with Anderson facing Tamatonga, right? Someone who used to be in Bullet Club was kicked out during a whole Impact thing. I don't think when the music hit, when the sign came up, obviously my guttural instinct reaction is Jay White, because everyone's thinking about it and it's on the front of everyone's mind. And like you, I don't particularly like how they've dealt with Juice Robinson. Although, to be honest with you, there's a lot of people I could say that about with AEW. Like, I really like AEW and I love a lot of what they do all of the time. But my God, do they have like 400 people who are just sat sort of doing nothing? And I'm like, this person's really good. Why are we not doing anything with this person? Even though they're just sort of sat there. I don't know whether he would be involved in anything in a Bullet Club sense. He might be facing the Bullet Club, and I think that would be interesting if he came in and did a sort of, not anti-Bullet Club thing, but like maybe face Juice Robinson in a sort of like, I'm now fighting against the Bullet Club guy and making my own path forward. Because I think Jay White's future, if it's not in New Japan, is probably as a singles guy who's not really dealing with any stable stuff, at least for the foreseeable future, I would suspect. So maybe that's something they could do. You build up, sort of, you bring in Juice in, you know those two can have a really good match if you just let them go, because they're both very, very good in ring. So build up Juice as like this Bullet Club type guy in AEW, this Bullet Club member in AEW, and then all of a sudden, here comes Jay White to take revenge on the club, as it were.
Be interesting. It's a different twist. It's a different sort of direction they could go with it. I actually think that could be quite fun to see, actually. Obviously, you said there as well, like, if you had to lean it right now, 60-40, you think WWE over AEW for Jay White?
I would just, yeah, I think so. I want to see, I'm really excited to see whatever he does, because I think he's really good. I almost think he's underrated a little bit. It's weird, because he's someone who is so well regarded, but I also don't think people realize just how good he is, because he's stood next to Okada, and then he's in the shadow of Kenny Omega. He was stood next to Kazuchika Okada, so it's difficult to go, look at that guy. But I think he's really, really good, and so I'm really intrigued to see what he does. And I think no matter which he goes to, he could be a massive, massive success wherever he goes.
I agree with you. Wherever he lands, he's going to be a massive success. I still think favoured WWE, but that last night got me thinking. Bitney just thought for the first time there, maybe, just maybe, he could be AEW bound. And if they do a Bullet Club in AEW, I'm quite excited, because we've got the Trios Championships, we've got the Tag Team Championships, we've got all sorts of gang warfare going over there. New mention there, the Elite there as well. That's just a great match in do itself. Jay White going against Kenny Omega. That's the comparisons that were made. There's some good stuff you could do with that if he was to go there. But we've got Ghost Spider 2003 says, I'm not a fan of not an AEW fan, but Wardlow deserved better. Now, of course, Wardlow winning the TNT Championship at Revolution over Samoa Joe, closing that feud off, which I thought was a good feud, by the way. I really like the storytelling with the ponytail and stuff. But obviously, everything that's gone between then and Dynamite, literally took a story there where he had the championship in his ring gear stolen, changed the match to a false count anywhere match, and he's lost the championship to Powerhouse Hobbs. But of course, not just lost it to Powerhouse Hobbs. Hobbs now seems aligned with QT Marshall, which he'd been hiding away for quite a while. I've not seen him on TV for a long time. I never watched Darker Elevation, just to clarify that if he has been around. But yeah, what are your thoughts of the main event segment of Dynamite? Personally, I'm very happy for Hobbs, but the booking was slightly questionable for me.
Yeah. They put themselves in a very, very awkward position where they had two guys in Hobbs and Wardlow, and neither I felt like should lose right now. They both have a lot of upside, and I think they maybe missed it a little bit with Wardlow. I think there was a moment to really push it, and they gave him the TNT title. He came out with the MJF stuff looking really good, and it just sort of didn't go anywhere. And it's, again, that's one of my problems a little bit of AEW is I know they sometimes play it a little bit too safe for long-term stuff, and I feel like there was this spark of something that they should have jumped on and they didn't. And I felt like in that situation they put themselves in a position where neither men could really afford to lose. And I see, like, they've tried to sort of, I think my thinking anyway is that they sort of try to work it in a way where now you've got QT with Hobbs, and that's sort of given him a reason to be almost as if Wardlow hasn't been hard done by that much. But I don't know, it's just difficult to feel that because I feel like they both are so good. But I don't know, it's difficult. It's a bit like Braun Strowman to an extent with Wardlow, because it's like, here's this big bloke who's just gonna come in and powerbomb some people to death, and we're all gonna love it when it happens. Like, it's great to watch. Like, what a time to be alive. And it's almost like an easy dub just sitting there at all times, where you almost don't have to invest too heavily in it, because you know that when it comes on screen everyone's gonna like it. But I don't know, I just feel like there was an opportunity there with him, and I just think they squandered it a little bit. And I'm hoping that further down the line they do something with him, because I think he's for AEW, he's someone who looks so different to everyone else as well, that I just think it's such a good thing to have for them.
I completely agree with you. I think with Wardlow, like you said, there was a moment around Double or Nothing last year where obviously he broke away, I think, after Revolution from MJF, that feud going into Double or Nothing. Obviously, the MJF fiasco stuff, I think, didn't help around the time, because everyone was talking about MJF after that, when it should have been Wardlow's crowning moment. But obviously, he later was to become the TNT champion. That sort of reign was not as good as it could or should have been. Just like you said, the storytelling wasn't there. He's finally got the championship back in what's been a good story, but then to lose it immediately afterwards, I think you're right. They wanted to protect both guys in this, but QT Marshall, someone who should be on the lower end of the card no matter what, I think was the wrong guy to help Hobbs. If another guy had gone into there to help Hobbs, I think I would have felt slightly different about it. But I'm pleased Hobbs has won the championship, because no Face of the Revolution ladder match winner has ever won the TNT championship directly afterwards, to my memory. I could be wrong in saying that, but did Scorpio Sky, I don't think, won it the first time. I think he won it a second championship match a bit later, and same with Wardlow last year. So it's good to see that someone actually did do it. So fair play to Hobbs on doing that. But hopefully both guys will be booked quite well going forward, and I wouldn't mind seeing a program, to be fair, with them. They certainly could do that after this. Richard, good to see you in house. He says, I want to see Joe Gacy versus Andre Chase at Stand and Deliver in a Pick Your Poison to see who's supreme. Joe Gacy should pick Bobby Lashley, and Andre Chase should pick Austin Theory for this one. I mean, we've got Johnny Gargano on Stand and Deliver. I'm not sure we get any more of the main roster names at this point, especially as both of them have matches at WrestleMania. But hey, I like the thinking of pick your poison. What have you felt with Joe Gacy and Andre Chase?
I'm a big Chase U guy, and I'm not entirely certain why. It sort of happened overnight, and I'm a bit confused by it. It was like the Vaudevillains, right? It's peak Vaudevillains in my mind.
Yeah.
Where there's this thing that I'm just sort of not entirely vibing with, and then all of a sudden, one show, it just clicks for me, and I go completely the opposite direction. And I'm fully whatever Chase. And I think they're gonna. I think when they go to main roster, it's probably not gonna work. But for now, I'm loving it. Joe Gacy, I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on that for some reason, and I'm not sure why. But you know, I'm intrigued to see where everything's going right now with NXT, because they're in such a weird position. But yeah, I'm back in Chase all the way, 100% for the rest of until I get bored of it, I guess. But I can't see that happening for a while. So in any context, I'm big Chase.
I can see why you're big Chase, because for me, the carrots work of them is superb. I love Andre, how he just gets mad in all these sort of seminars. I think Thea Howe is amazing for, like, what's she, like 19 years old? Her carrots work is superb. She's a different level. She can get the in-ring stuff on side of it as well. She can go all the way. Duke Hudson is just the perfect balance for that group as well. Yeah. So I'm enjoying what they're putting together there, and I'm enjoying the Joe Gacy storyline at the moment. I like the idea of, I want Schism to want to overtake Chase U. So, you have the Chase U section in the audience to all be Schism followers. I like that idea, but hey, maybe it's a bit too outside the box at this early stage, but we'll have to wait and see. Go back to one of Jones's questions. He says, which wrestler would you do a big heel turn angle at WrestleMania this year, and why?
It's a great question. I don't know. The little trolley gremlin in me wants to say Cody for the bands, but I'm not going to. I don't know. That's a great question.
I can tell you that Jonesy would love you if your answer was Cody. I'm sure he would be a massive fan of that, knowing him.
I like watching the world burn sometimes. Do you know what I mean? I just love the like. Obviously it's wrong. I think it's probably you know, it is the wrong thing to do, Charlie. It is the wrong thing to do. But can you imagine if after all the Sammy stuff and all of this, they gave the belt to Cody and then he turned heel? Oh, the amount. Oh, Twitter would be unbearable for a day. It'd be incredible. Yeah, screw it. No, I'm gonna puff my chest out. It's Cody. Cody is the answer. Let's really cause some problems, shall we? You think Twitter's bad now? Off you just wait. Let's get Cody. He beats Roman and then I don't know, he does something bad. Not sure what. Just flips off the I don't know. I don't know, but I'd love let's really annoy some people.
Maybe Heyman aligns with him and they have like that sort of Steve Austin, Vince McMahon end of WrestleMania 17 moment of the shake of hands there, you know, and the Bloodline Wrestling has more than one royal family could be the idea for the tagline. Just to rub salt in the wounds there. And yeah, Twitter would burn for a day. I'm pretty sure of it after getting behind him. I'm going to say Asuka, just purely because I think she needs a heel turn for that. The character change she's had has been awesome. I've loved the direction with her so far, but I just think we've had that tease where she said like the blue mist and the stuff that was a bit creepy with Bianca Belair for 1 week. They've sort of been on the same page for the last couple of Raws. I'd like her to actually turn heel during the match at WrestleMania to then win the Raw Women's Championship, purely because it gives us a fresh Asuka character coming out of Mania with the reset button. The whole division probably gets shaken up with the draft, probably. It's probably bound to happen now at its usual period, as now it's not in October anymore. And I think it would just be good for the whole division to freshen things up because you've got baby faces that can face Asuka. Bianca Belair finally gets a new lease of life to do something different because she's been champion for a year. So that would be my selection. But certainly I think the one that would get people talking would be Cody of the two.
Do you think with Asuka, this could be just because I'm such an Asuka fan, but do you think she has like that, like, I don't know what you want to call it, but again, not to bring up Eddie again, but that Eddie Guerrero, they're a heel, but they're just too likable to be like a heel, if you know what I mean. I feel like with her, she could be running about doing just heinous things, and I don't know if the crowd, do you reckon they would actually get behind her as a heel or not?
It's hard to say. I mean, she was a Kabuki warrior, wasn't she, with Kairi Sane? I think it was 2019. I don't know how people were reacting back then, if people were booing them or not. But at the same time, like you say, she's cool in rings. She's got the mist. She's got a lot of things that go for her as well. When this character change, people want to cheer it instantly. I think she would have to do something dastardly to do so. And I don't know. I don't know what that would be. Would it be against Bianca Belair? Would it be against somebody else? But of course, if you start pairing in with the I don't know. Again, we saw the Twitter IWC favorites, the Liv Morgans of this world, the Raquel Rodriguez, those sort of people go in ring with her afterwards, where she's meant to be the dastardly heel. Do a few evil things to those ones, and I think perhaps maybe there's a chance that people would get on side with it.
I tell you what, I know everyone's having this conversation about whether Vince is back or not at the moment. You want to know if Vince is really back, is whether he redoes the Shinsuke AJ angle from the end of their match at Mania. That's how you turn. That's how you turn it. Just at the end, do a nut shot, and then we all move on with our lives. I don't know.
So as you mentioned that, it's another one of Jones's questions. Will Triple H's vision be? Has it changed? Has it slowed that vision because McMahon is back?
I mean, potentially, but I think it's more like, how do I say this? I think with me, I often tend to take a long time to get on board with theories, let's say. So, for example, I apologize, everyone. I'm going to mention West Ham. I'm sorry. He said wearing a West Ham shirt with that. I'm sorry. There's a lot of talk right now about one of West Ham's players, Skamaka, who there's a lot of talk about whether he's had a falling out with the manager, and that's why he's not playing a lot on these sort of things. And in that whole situation, whenever it comes up, I usually tend to say, I just don't think he's very fit right now, so he's probably not playing because of that. Because I often think sometimes the most obvious thing is the truth. Like, so I tend not to like get on board with too many of these things. So with Vince coming back, for example, I think in reality that probably puts some pressure on Triple H, in a sense of like, you know, Vince sends him a text and goes, "Oh, I've got this idea for Lesnar versus Omos," and then he sort of leaves him on scene, or is like, "Yeah, that's great," and then he moves on with his life. Whereas if he texts him that and then turns up at the arena next week, he's probably like, it's a bit awkward that he's going to see I'm not doing it. So maybe there is some sort of pressure there, but I feel like until, you know what it's like, WWE is a leaky ship at the best of times. I feel like until we get told explicitly that like he is sort of in control, then it's just another sort of name in the pot of people who are suggesting stuff. I'm not really sure, but I guess we'll end up seeing. I am perennially a little bit concerned that he will continue to get more and more involved again, because it's been so much better without him. And also, I feel a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. Just after the way he left as well, I would very much prefer not to have to think about that.
Absolutely, yeah. Under the circumstances, I would hope that McMahon's not steering that ship again. But obviously, he's rumored to be back for the sale. But I imagine that WrestleMania's probably got his suggestions. It's his baby. It's that show, isn't it? Where you think if there's going to be input, now is that time. I wonder if it gets to Backlash and we get to King of the Ring or King and Queen of the Ring, I should say. Maybe then Triple H gets the full reins to, well, you pick your king and queen and you just go into SummerSlam, roll you and do your thing. Then when it comes to that big four show again, maybe Vince has an idea and says, well, actually, have you thought about bringing Brock Lesnar back for another match of Omos? That's the time really where he might sort of get in Triple H's ear. So maybe it's the big shows that can happen. But I feel in places we could say maybe there's been a bit of Vince McMahon in the storytelling. But like you say, I do feel overall it's been a much better product as of late. And I feel that with that, I'm going to give that credit to Triple H because it does feel fresh. It's different than what we've seen for the last 3 or 4 years watching WWE programming. Yeah. So for me, I do feel that I see, even if it's a Vince McMahon idea, I still think it's being put through Triple H's vision, if that makes sense. It's kind of like I don't know, when you sort of have the glasses on, but the eyes are on the side. I don't know. It's not a good way to sort of make that analogy, but hopefully you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it's almost... Maybe not to this extent, but almost similar to like how everyone always says that, Russo was making ideas in the Attitude Era, but it was having to go through filters of Vince McMahon and other things, and that's sort of what happened. And then you see when he's unfiltered, it goes absolutely wild, right? So probably something similar to that. I agree with you. I think we often forget as well that obviously there are a lot of writers at WWE. It's not just Triple H sat in a dark room, Stephanie looking after the kids and he's like, no, I can't do anything, I'm busy writing. He's not just sat there doing the entire thing by himself. There are other people pitching ideas, and I think Vince, for all his eccentricities, let's go with, is obviously a guy who sort of knows, at one point has at times booked incredible wrestling. It's not like he's incapable of doing it. It's just, if there is a filter above him, that's probably quite a good thing. Especially one who is actually tuned into what the current pulse of wrestling is with Triple H, who very clearly is very into current wrestling as well as old wrestling. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. We mentioned King of the Ring, or King and Queen of the Ring here. Ghost Spider 2003 says, I want Karrion Kross or Finn Balor. Perhaps one of those should win the King of the Ring tournament. Two very good suggestions. They obviously, Finn being the Prince Devitt, of course, back in the day, and Karrion Kross needs something, bless him. Who would be your pick for King of the Ring at this early stage? Would it be one of those two names, or would it be somebody else?
I like both of those shouts, to be fair. Quite a lot. I like what Finn's doing, but I always want him to do more because I just think he's great. But I do like what he's doing at the moment. I think I am, for some weird reason, I've always liked Judgment Day, and I don't know why. Even when I was watching reviews and hearing everyone talk about it, and people are like, I'm not into this at all. For some reason, I was still here for it, and I'm not sure why. Karrion Kross, a bit like Wardlow. I feel like there was something there that they could have gone with and just didn't really. So I think it could do him the world of good. Because right now they've obviously got... Yeah, actually, I'm backing this Karrion Kross idea. I think this is a good idea. Because obviously they've got Gunther at the moment, and he's just... They're building him to be a big unstoppable force, and I feel like with Karrion Kross they could do something similar, but they just have nothing. They don't really feel like they have a path. Whereas obviously because Gunther has the title, he almost doesn't need a path. People come to him, he chops them down, throws them to the back of the queue, sort of thing. I feel like him going through a King of the Ring style thing and just blapping people, just absolutely mauling them, and coming out of it looking really strong could put him in a really good position as long as they just do. Like you were saying with the Face of Revolution thing, doing something after that, giving him be a title shot. Maybe by that point, Gunther's messing about with the World Championship or something. I don't know. To a point where maybe he can just get a belt and do something. But I think it could do Kross the world of good. I think Balor doesn't necessarily need it, but I think Kross it could do huge things for. Actually, I think that's a great shout, Ghost Spider.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kross is definitely... I mean, I would be happy with either, to be honest, really. But I think Kross is definitely one that stands out for me. One controversial one, not said it on the stream before, let's say it down for the first time. If Dominic Mysterio beats Rey Mysterio, and obviously, let's say he ends his career, wins his mask, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. But obviously, in Spanish, if I'm not mistaken, King is Rey. Wouldn't it be funny if he won the King of the Ring tournament to actually not just steal his mask, but actually to take his name on top. But I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to be his deadbeat dad. I don't know. But yeah, controversial thought. Let me know what you think in the comments. Nubico says, I definitely do see Jay White debuting at Mania this year. I could definitely see Natalia Markova could also debut at Mania, maybe in a feud with Carmella or Chelsea Green. I'm not sure of her contract situation with the NWA, but she's certainly got a lot of talent there for sure. Anything to add on this? Did you know much of Natalia Markova?
No, not at all. NWA is sort of completely. It's been a blind spot for me for a while, so I've got nothing at all. I think Chelsea Green's great.
Yeah,
I think Chelsea coming back, she's been so good.
She's been unreal with the character, to be fair. And yeah, I actually am really a fan of the idea of Carmella being a team actually with her as well. I think that would be quite fun to see. Ghost Spider 2003 says Raquel Rodriguez should turn heel after WrestleMania and win the Queen's Tournament or win the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Certainly on the radar of a lot of WWE supporters. She seems to be at next in line along with Liv Morgan to break out to get to that top tier. She seems like she would be a good shout actually for the Queen's Tournament. What do you reckon?
Yeah, she should be actually. She's another one who could. I think she's in this awkward place where like I don't know if they're gonna give her a belt. Well, I don't know. I really like her. Surprise! I didn't. Well, she's a bit like the flip of Baron Corbin, where I really liked Baron Corbin in NXT, and then the second he got promoted, I just completely switched off him. I'm not sure why. She's the exact opposite. Where when she was in NXT, I was never that convinced, despite the fact it was very clear that she was going to be something. I would just never clicked with me. Whereas right now is the most I go, oh, she's really good. That could do bits for her as well, having a Queen in the Ring win. That could be really good.
I think it would take it to the next level for sure. They don't need to give it the Queen gimmick and stuff, but certainly would have that moniker there to then go for a women's championship. I think would be quite nice. If not, women's Money in the Bank would certainly work, and of course that will be in London, England. Charlie, did you manage to score yourself a ticket to go to the show?
Oh, I've messed it up royal. You should. Oh, it was an absolute night. It was a nightmare. I saw. Here's the story. I stayed up all night because I was editing and I had a deadline the next day. So I stayed up and remembered, 12 o'clock is the tickets go on sale. Right, I've got the pre-sale link. Beautiful. I'll do your thing. And then I log in 15 minutes to go. And they say they've postponed it like 45 minutes or something. They moved it back, the pre-sale start time. And I was like, I don't know if I can stay awake for that. End up falling asleep in this seat. It was next to my computer. Falling asleep like an idiot. Like an absolute numpty. Woke up about 4 or 5 hours later, wherever it was. Checked the link. 500, 800, 700 quid. Oh, good. Okay, well, I can't go to that then. So I've absolutely messed that up. I'll have to be watching at home, anticipating. I don't know if they're going to release any more single tickets. Maybe I might be able to get one of the uber cheap ones, but it's probably a myth at this point, sadly.
Unfortunately, it feels that way. The prices looked extortionate for Money in the Bank, unfortunately. So, like you say, the pipe dream for me is where it remains, unfortunately. Richard, I feel you've gone back into your troll mode today. He says Rhea Ripley and Dominic versus Liv Morgan, Rey Mysterio, and Zoe Stark. I'm not sure. Beth Phoenix on SmackDown tomorrow. Could it happen? We'll have to wait and see there. But I think he could be teasing us there. I'm not going to lie to you. C Nation said, welcome C Nation, by the way, into the stream tonight. He says the AEW TNT Championship is a hot potato belt. They should name it the AEW 24/7 Championship. Loving that. That's quite creative.
It's a shame. It's a shame because it started off so strong, but for the last since the Sammy Cody stuff, it has just been a bit jumping around all over the place, which is a shame because it started off really, really well, but what can you do?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a shame that championship has gone. Like you said, the early days of it with Cody, with Brody, first Darby Allin run, they're all really good, and all of a sudden it's just, I don't know. I feel like after that my memory just blurs of who was champion where and when. It's hard to pick the pieces together, but it is what it is. Ghost Spider 2003 says Johnny Gargano returns on NXT, and Gargano will get payback on Grayson Waller at Stand and Deliver. And do you know what? It's a great point Ghost Spider makes, because of course Grayson Waller was the one that sent Gargano packing when he left WWE, when the contract ran out the first time after War Games. Of course, it was the originals against the new NXT, or NXT Black and Gold versus 2.0. For me, I'm actually really gassed and looking forward to this because, I thought we'd never get a conclusion to this feud. And obviously, Gargano perhaps doesn't have the plans at WrestleMania. What were your thoughts to Gargano returning on NXT this week?
I think it's quite exciting, to be fair. I think, like you say, I don't think he's got anything going on right now on the main roster, and like I said earlier, I don't think it's really vibed with him so far to the extent it could, and so giving him something that actually means something, it's a really good opportunity for Grayson Waller as well. I think it'll end up being a really good match. I'm super for that. I think it's a really good use of Johnny Gargano if he's not going to have a major WrestleMania program. I think this is a really good use of him, actually.
Yeah, I do as well. It's a shame he's not going to get that WrestleMania match because that's when he came to Raw for when he first made that debut back in Canada. It was almost like to win a championship, to be at WrestleMania. If it's not in the pipeline this year, and I guess we don't know about the Battle Royals yet, but I mean, it's not really that singles match that I suppose he's dreaming for. This is a good place to do it. And obviously, it puts a lot of interest into Stand and Deliver. It's a big opponent for Grayson Waller as well, who, let's be fair, I'm not sure where else he would have fit in the card. I did predict potentially a Dragon Lee debut could have been a place for it, but this to me makes so much more sense to do. And for me, I think it's quite an exciting proposition. I'm looking forward to this match a lot.
Yeah, me too. Grayson Waller is someone who's been growing on me recently as well. Someone who you asked me 6 months ago or something if I was for it, and I would have been no. But at the moment, he's sort of growing on me slowly, and I think this is, like I say, a really good position for him to have something that's really good. I think what's a good comparison? Tyler Breeze back when he was in NXT, where he was this guy who sort of wasn't. He was never really the champion, but he had really good matches consistently with a lot of sort of random people at random takeovers. I think Grayson Waller in this position has that sort of vibe of like, here's a really good platform to show this person off. And Johnny will drag anyone to a good match. I think Johnny's brilliant. So. Yeah,
he absolutely is. Shout out to Robbie Collins. Thank you, Robbie, for joining the stream. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking in. We've got Noob and Co. saying here that I believe the obvious option is Asuka for that heel turn because she wants the world to know that she's superior than Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. Obviously, she's done a lot of good things, Asuka. Like I said, there's two names that arguably could be up there in the pipeline that's above her right now in the WWE pecking order. So yeah, I mean, Asuka would be a good shout there. Richard Rose says, which Bullet Club member will be kicked out of Bullet Club next? Bad Luck Fale or Ghetto? Make your choice and then tell the Bullet Club about it. Well, we won't tell the Bullet Club, but we'll tell you about it, Richard. Which member would you see being kicked out of the Bullet Club next?
No, let's tell them. Let's pop over Japan. We'll just a quick. I ain't got much going on next week. I don't know about you. We'll just go over there, have a word. I'm
quickly looking on my flight availability now. Actually, just while you give an answer.
Yeah. Just quick flight tracker. I don't know. I think Bad Luck Fale will be there forever. I'm not even certain he's ever going to retire. I think he'll just forever exist and he'll just be in the Bullet Club forever. I think in 20, 30, 40 years, we'll just see an 80, 90-year-old Bad Luck Fale just sort of wandering about, hitting people. I'm trying to think. I don't, it's interesting to me without Jay White. I don't know. Maybe I feel like Bullet Club, this is maybe harsh to say, but I just feel like it's semi-run its course. I think it just sort of exists now for the sake of existing. I think the obvious answer is obviously, I don't know. I don't know. So I feel like maybe Gato's just going to move on to something else. I don't know. I could back that, to be fair, because I think he's just sort of there, and I think it's just sort of exists for the sake of existing. But then again, that's not entirely like other stables in New Japan. I mean, what does chaos actually mean? Chaos just is. Chaos just exists. It had a purpose at first, but now we're just a bunch of blokes. So maybe I'm being harsh about it and wrong about it, but I feel like it's just sort of run its course. Hopefully, taking away Jay White and putting Dave Finney's not necessarily the person in charge, but having something new will infuse something into that stable, because right now I just sort of like, they're a bunch of guys who just sort of there. I don't know.
Yeah, I do get where you're coming from with that with New Japan. Right? I need someone to take the reins and to take the lead rather than actually kicking more people out. But I'll say Gato because he's vulnerable without Jay White, but I've got no better reasoning for it, unfortunately. Ghost Spider says, I think Austin Theory should turn face after WrestleMania and feud with a heel Johnny Gargano for the United States Championship. Interesting proposition there. We did say at the start of the stream that you thought Johnny Gargano hasn't connected with the main roster audience the same way that perhaps he did in NXT. Do you think that perhaps maybe he should be shown the way, if you want, as a heel, be the heel and go against the face Austin Theory?
Potentially. Potentially, I think there's always this problem with NXT to main roster call-ups where they sort of carry on what they were. And the people who've watched NXT and like when I've seen them in NXT, you love them because you know their history, and then they come up to the main roster and none of that history exists, and you just sort of present them as if they're a thing. Ty Dillinger, when he got promoted, is a great example of someone who had this like arc in NXT, comes up and does nothing because there's nothing that exists there. It's just some guy. And I think with Johnny, maybe there's a little bit of that where you think about his amazing run with the championship going all the way back to the Cruiserweight Classic with Tommaso and all that sort of stuff. So when he comes up to the main roster and none of that exists and he's just a guy, it feels kind of odd. So that is probably the right thing to do to some extent. I would suspect it would be interesting to see what he could do in that realm on main roster as a heel. I would have a lot more faith in it now than I would if Vince was in charge. If Vince was in charge, I think it would be a lost cause at that point. But I think now I'd be interested in it. I think it's probably the right thing to do because he needs something. He's so good, man. He's so good. And like, he obviously had that moment where he could have gone to, well, I say he could have gone to AEW, like that was a foregone conclusion, but he obviously, his contract was up and there was a choice to make and he chose to stay with WWE. I think it would be a massive shame if nothing happened with that. I think potentially that's the right thing to do, is maybe turning him heel and just giving him something different, because he is so good and over time it will get there. It just will take time to get there.
It took time in NXT, in fairness, when he had the DIY tag team. They didn't really get there straight away to the top. Then they got over as a tag team. Then the breakup happened. He was out without Ciampa for a long time. So they'd sort of make him into the main eventer at that point when he was sort of just a mid-card guy. So that they like you say, time could be the blessing for that one. And obviously I liked him with the way. I actually wouldn't mind him paired up with Austin Theory. But Austin Theory almost, being the son that leads the way now on the main roster because he's shown how good he can be. And Johnny's like the proud dad, almost, if you want. Like, I'm willing to follow his way because of the fact he's made a good go of this. I've come here trying to do the right thing, and it's not worked out for me.
I think with Johnny, it's interesting because his size just makes him feel like such an underdog. And I can't, off the top of my head, I'm sure there are ones, and I'm probably just forgetting. I'm having a very bad brain day in general, so I'm probably just forgetting. But I'm trying to think of underdog heels that have worked really well in WWE, and I'm kind of struggling. And I think his size just sort of, it shouldn't, but in the land of the giants as it is, as you want to call it, as you might word it or whatever, I feel like his size just is underdog babyface all over.
Yeah, it's kind of how it is. But then I suppose one, if you go on the flip side, Daniel Bryan, of course, when he was doing his his like WWE Championship was one that was really over at the time. But I mean, there is many though that suit that babyface role so much better, and arguably you could say Bryan Danielson could be one of them as well. But he did have a good heel run at that particular moment. But I've got to say, Robbie Collins, absolute hero here. Bit of a random one, but how far do you think Joe Hendry could go? Like, could he make WWE or AEW? Do you guys think? A hero over here in Scotland. I would love to see him in there if they let him make music. Of course, say his name and you can believe in Joe Hendry. How much do you believe in Joe Hendry is the question here, Charlie.
Listen, hero, local hero. I love him. I think he's so good, man. I think it's the music thing is big, but I think he's charismatic enough and a good enough of a talker where he could make it work wherever he would go. And actually, over the last sort of couple of years, my man has become hench. He's become huge. He was always like a strong, big guy, but like his change in physique as well was insane. It was at one point I was seeing him post gym selfies on Twitter, and I was like, have you photoshopped yourself on John Cena's body? Because it is kind of wild what's gone on here. I think he's really, really good. I think he's great in ring. I think he's really charismatic. And if you let him do the music stuff, it's difficult when you go to national promotion level where you're on television all week, because it's like, okay, we're getting into copyright issues a little bit here. But I think he's so good, and I think he could go. I think he could very easily could work for either of those two companies, either of the main two companies, very comfortably. Don't know how far he'd go in them. Like easy mid-card title holder, but I really like Joe Hendry. I really, really like Joe Hendry.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit I do as well. Like you say, he's definitely built some bulk over the last couple of years, and I didn't see much of his work between when he left Impact the last time to coming back. But I've enjoyed his run so far. I'm particularly enjoying the work with Matt Cardona. I've really enjoyed what they've done with the music videos with that. I thought was really entertaining. The one he did with Moose, I thought was quite good as well. There, I think was around. I think it was actually at the No Surrender show where. Still one of the weirdest things I've seen in wrestling. Moose actually dancing in the middle of the ring with one of them headgears on his face. But at the same time, I think Joe Hendry, like you say, I think the door is open. It's just how far he can get into it. But I certainly think he could make one of those companies. I've got to say, Joe Hendry is doing some really good stuff. And long may continue in the meantime as digital media champion. He's certainly a hero, not just in Scotland, but across all the way, hopefully. I see a lot of clapping and a lot of arm waving of every show he's at. Eric Douglas, thank you for checking out the stream. Hope you're doing well, Eric. And look forward to seeing some of the questions you've got for us here today. C Nation Dog says, why did AEW not just go with the International Championship name in the first place? I have a feeling the International Championship might be the next TNA television where it gets renamed a lot. I have a slight theory on this, Charlie, if you don't mind, just to start off with. Obviously, it was the All-Atlantic Championship. And obviously, Pac was the first holder of it. And for the first, I don't know, couple of months that he was champion, he was not even on AEW TV, to the point a lot of people criticized this championship. What's the point of it? They're never there. They're never here. And I thought that was the point of the championship. He's supposed to go to New Japan and other places that spread the name of AEW. Now they're in AEW, and every person going for it seems to be American. So it feels like it's just nice now to say it's the international champion, like an intercontinental championship, and they can defend it in Canada, in other places, but it doesn't matter if it's all the time American people that are holding it. Do you think that it's a good name change?
Probably. I quite like the name All Atlantic. I think the All Atlantic has like a vibe to it. I don't know how to describe it apart from a vibe to it that the International Championship doesn't quite have, but it is probably a better name. I suspect more people would get on board with it. I think my biggest problem with that belt, when Pac had it, I don't think it was being utilized enough on television, but that idea of being able to go and like represent on the indies with stuff and going to different places around the world was really appealing to me. And the fact that's not really happened since is just a little bit of a disappointment. It was kind of wild to watch, you know. I think it was either on Elevation or Dark. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Elevation. And they're showing like, here's footage from a Rev Pro show in Southampton where Pac went and defended the belt. And I think you see the reactions of what the reactions say he was getting in England when he'd come and wrestle here. And he seems like such an absolute superstar. And I think that's maybe under... I don't know what the word would be, but I don't think they maybe put as much stock into that as they potentially could have. Like if you start, and obviously it's only on Dark or Elevation, so there's a limited audience to it. But all of a sudden, the people who are seeing that are seeing Pac be presented as if he is the biggest deal in the entire world, not a guy who's with Death Triangle, with doing this, with doing this. Like he in those crowds. Obviously, it's a smaller venue, smaller company, everything else. But he came across as if he was like a god. And then when those people would see him on AEW television or whatever, he would be a much bigger deal. I really want to see them return to that. I don't know how doable that is, but they've obviously got good ties with New Japan and everything else where that could potentially happen. And I think potentially the name changes maybe something to do with New Japan's new show. Obviously they're rebooting what's it called? Why that name's gone from my head as well. The US stuff they were doing.
My brain's going a bit fuzzled with that as well.
But now. the US show they were doing, obviously they'd made those announcements. Tony Khan had been saying that they were waiting to reboot Ring of Honor and waiting to see what was happening with New Japan with their stuff and all that. I think maybe it has something to do with that, where it's going to play into the New Japan. Strong. He's done it. He's done it. I'm a genius. No one ever say otherwise. Maybe it has something to do with that. I'm not sure, but I really hope they get back. I don't know how feasible it is, but I just love that idea of someone having the belt, whoever it is, just having that belt and being able to go to independence here, there, and everywhere and defend it. Go to come over here. Go to Rev Pro. Go to Progress. Go to wherever. Going up to Scotland doing ICW. Bopping about America, going to places like Defy or places like that, going to New Japan, other places in Japan if you want to. There's so many amazing promotions you could go to and have amazing matches and make that person feel like a superstar and increase their exposure as well without necessarily putting them on television. But we'll see.
Yeah. We will see indeed, but like you said there, that's the beauty of what you can do with that championship. And I agree with all of your points that you said there. I think you're on the money with a lot of it. Richard, I think is definitely trolling us again. They're sport of a 2024 Rumble and Survivor Series venues there. Don't think we know that quite yet, but Rumble in Nashville, would it be warm enough? I'm not sure, but hey, you guys know better than I do over there. C Nation says Wardlow is now the shortest reigning AEW TNT champion at 3 days. The previous record was 12 days from Sammy Guevara. C Nation spitting those facts that's right there. Good to bring some knowledge. I like that. Thank you, C Nation, for that. Ghost Spider says Triple H and Randy Orton is one of the iconic rivalries and one most personal in WWE history, but they never faced off inside Hell in a Cell. I can't remember having Hell in a Cell match either, but certainly, was you ever a fan of the Triple H Randy Orton rivalries they had over the years?
No, I missed most of them when I was in my sort of dark period. I missed most of it. I think coming off the tail end of when I came back and Randy was, it was mostly my main memories of coming back were, it's Randy versus Cena again. And so I don't tend to remember most of it. Although I did like Evolution back in the day, but I don't seem to remember most of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big Evolution fan, but obviously when Randy Orton won the championship, again, 2004, was around the time you were tuning out. Triple H was not a fan of the idea that the sort of up-and-comer outdone him and won the championship, something he couldn't do. That's when he got kicked out of the group, and then it started a feud at that point where Randy Orton was buried. Then fast forward to 2007 when they're back on the brands again. Randy Orton's more experienced back in the championship picture. That rivalry went on for about 2, 3, 4 years. But probably the build to WrestleMania 25 is probably their best work. Unfortunately, their match at WrestleMania 25 probably isn't their strongest. But certainly, they've done some great stuff over the years. And Ghost Spider, it's definitely a good match. It's a shame it was never inside the cell, if that's the case. Ghost Spider 2003 says, unlikely opinion, Big E will turn heel on the New Day in 2023. Say it isn't so, Charlie. I wouldn't want to see this.
No, I can't. I don't think you can split up the New Day. I just think they have to stay together forever. Maybe they all turn heel, but I can't see them. I think at this point they have to stay together, and I think they're stronger for it. I think one of the greatest things about New Day, and New Day are probably that's maybe New Day are up there for one of my favorite tag teams. I was going to say favorite, but that's probably a bit bold at this stage. But they're up there with one of my favorite tag teams and stables of all time. I think one of their strengths is that they just haven't split up. And I think the Kofi moment and other moments since have been stronger because they haven't. They've been able to have those moments together. It's not just one person succeeding; it's everyone succeeding, and they haven't. It hasn't felt less special because of it. I don't want to see. If they turn heel, I wouldn't necessarily be against it. I'd see where it goes. I wouldn't. It's not something I would do, but I wouldn't be against it. I'd be willing to see where it goes, but I don't want to see them split up. I think they're too strong together. I think it just works.
Yeah, I'm with you. If it's not broke, don't fix it. They sell great merch. They do great things and great for the community as well. So I don't want it to happen. I'm sorry, Ghost Spider. For me, I look at it and say, Big E for me, when he does come back, if he can come back, we probably will learn later this month if he's got a chance of coming back. That would be amazing. And obviously then we'd feel to ourselves, right, okay, how cool would be the big pop. Hopefully a redemption story would be there for him as well. But hey, if it did happen, like you say, we'd have to see how it plays out before we judge it too much. Tino's time in the house. What time is it, ladies and gentlemen? It's always Tino's time. Tino is taking over, ladies and gentlemen, streaming every single day. Thank you for stopping in. Hope you're doing well, sir. As well to Hassan as well. Thank you for checking in. Says hi there, guys. Thank you, Hassan, for checking in. Hope you are doing well also. We're going to back up to another couple of questions here for us, starting with Richard, who now says, if I choose Gator, which was my choice, who would replace him? I don't have that good of an answer who would replace Gato, to be honest with you, Richard, but certainly someone to pull the reins there, to pull the strings for Bullet Club. Who would be the best person? I'm a casual New Japan guy, by the way. I'm usually that guy that kicks in around Wrestle Kingdom season. Normally Dominion, you might see me pop in, but then I take a little bit of a vacation. I don't usually tune in as well, so I'm not sure. I know David Finney, like I say, is new in there, but certainly he probably wouldn't be the mastermind behind everything going on there. But yeah. Charlie, do you have a better answer than I would?
I don't know. I could go for some heel Rocky Romero right about now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bit like Biggie. I don't know if I could find it in my heart to boo Rocky Romero as he's running around clotheslining people, but I could go for some heel Rocky. You know, he's got everyone. I think that here's the benefit of Rocky being that guy is a bit like Gado. Everyone knows he is sort of the guy behind New Japan Strong. Obviously, there's other people involved as well, but he pulls a lot of those strings. And having that sort of person be the heel is kind of, not heel authority. It's almost heel authority figure, but the Japanese version of it, which I think works quite well. I could go for some. I don't know if I'd be able to deal with it, but I could go for it. Maybe a bit of tension between him and Trent when they inevitably rocks up on AEW Dark for some reason. It'd be great. I'll be all right. Rocky Romero. Let's go. I don't think it worked. But screw it. Let's go.
Rocky Romero is there, Richard. I'm sure you'll be more than happy with that answer there now. That was definitely done better. And the eye patch is there for Rocky Romero. There's got to be some evil behind that eye patch. There has to be. Ghost Spider says, if Judgment Day kick Dominic out, who should replace him? Tommaso Ciampa or Dijak? For me, either would be a great shout, but Blackheart Ciampa.
I don't know what they're going to do with Ciampa. Dijak, I can see working in that role. Or not necessarily in the I've apparently been to prison recently Dominic role, but like I can see him in Judgment. I can see it. Like I can see the silhouette of him in there. Ciampa, I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Yeah, maybe I'll back Dijak on that one just because I can see it. Although I'm very intrigued what's gonna happen with Tommaso.
I'm intrigued as well because he's been off TV for a very long time now. So it'll be interesting to see. A couple of Jonesy's questions from earlier that we've not had a chance to get up there because don't want to forget them. Jonesy, will takeovers return? I mean, we've got now these big shows like Vengeance Day, In Your House. It feels like those are the equivalent of takeovers. But that last show we had, Vengeance Day, being in front of like a crowd, which I want to say that was in Nashville. I could be wrong by saying that, but it felt like it was. It felt like that takeover atmosphere, at least. Do you reckon we're going to get that atmosphere back to NXT shows going forward? The specials, anyway.
Potentially, it depends on what the product is. I was shocked how good the atmosphere was. I thought it was going to be. I don't know. It definitely wasn't at like main like great NXT run levels of those takeovers. It wasn't there, but it was pretty good. And again, Chase, you got big reception, so I'm having a grand old time. But I was surprised by how big that was, how much it ended up working out. It's gonna take time, but it could potentially get there. But I think it all depends on the television. I think NXT television has gotten better recently. I think it's been doing better now in the last sort of, basically, again, a little bit since Vince has left. I think it's gotten a little bit better as the 2.0 sort of thing is waning down a little bit, but it's nowhere near what it once was. But there seems to be the audience there for it to make it a hot product for those sort of size shows. So, seeing them in that atmosphere is better than seeing them at Full Sail, to be fair.
I would agree with that. There is that niche audience still there crying out for it, but obviously I think AEW have taken that real takeover feel. They have that hard, passionate fan base each and every week, but will takeovers return? I think we'll get somewhere in the middle. I think they will try and attempt to make it there. And just my memory now serves me right because you mentioned Chase U. It was in, I believe, North Carolina, that show for Vengeance Day, because that's Charlotte Flair was a part of the video package at the start there. So I think that was why it was in Charlotte. But hopefully they will return, Jonesy, in some format, even if they're not called Takeover. And he also goes on to ask, who will be Triple H's first main guy he builds around, assuming Roman Reigns and even Cody Rhodes are seen as Vince McMahon picks? This is a fantastic question. This is going to take a bit of time to decide one.
Oh, Gunther.
Yeah.
I think, oh man, I'm so happy that's worked out. I was terrified. I was so scared that wasn't going to work. When he was originally sort of being courted, this was before he sort of even came into NXT UK. And there was always the sort of rumors going around and reports going around that he didn't want to leave Europe. He was happy where he lived. He didn't really want to do it. He wasn't that fussed about main roster stuff and all this. And I was like, okay, sure. Just because I like watching him so much, I don't want to see him do something lesser or whatever. And then he joined NXT UK and he was pulling out bangers, and he had a great stuff with Dan and Bay and stuff. And I was like, okay, sweet. Ilya as well, obviously. And I was like, cool, all right, sweet. And then he went to main roster, and I was like, I'm really scared because I think he is one of the best. I think the world of Gunther. I think he's one of the best in the world. And my God, if you've ever seen a man like, what's the word I'm looking for? Take positively from Vince McMahon leaving. Not that I think he still would have been a big deal under Vince McMahon. A, because he's probably too good to deny, and also B, because Vince loves a big, bad, scary foreign heel. But like now he can just be essentially Walter, but under a different name. Ugh, I'm very confident that within the next year he'll probably be a world champion.
I feel the same as you. I think that Gunther's future is very bright now in WWE. Like you say, under Vince, he would have been successful, but I think given another 12 months, he would be dancing around like a Vladimir Kozlov would have been back in 2011, 2012. But thankfully, Triple H is at the helm, and I think that Gunther is the most likely to have another reign like Roman Reigns. He's the closest thing that we'll get to it once Roman loses those straps. If Gunther was to be pushed to that level, he could be someone that could hold the gold for a very, very long time. But so I'm going to copy your answer, Charlie, if you don't mind. I think that's
fine
a good.
Me. Makes me feel better about myself, so I'm fine with that. That's good.
And speaking of big dudes potentially being in WWE, do we see Brian Cage debuting in 2023? Ghost Spider goes on to say if he does debut, he should get the Batista 2005 like push. There are rumors suggesting that Brian Cage's contract is coming up, although I believe it's already expired. I saw on Wrestle Talk earlier on today, but apparently he's doing. Because he got injured, he's having to do that extra time, same as like Kenny Omega's doing. So I think the earliest he could leave is June, although there is a contract that is on the table for Brian Cage in the meantime. But if he was to leave, do you think that WWE would be a destination? And if so, do you reckon he could get that Batista-like push?
I don't know where he would. I don't know where he'd fit in WWE, whether he'd be main roster or whether they should put him in NXT. If they have this idea of like, not because he needs it, but if they have this idea of trying to get NXT back to where it once was, he's a guy who conceivably could come in and do a really, really good job with that kind of like someone who pulls out has really good matches, can bring something different. He's massive. I don't know. Brian Cage is a really interesting one because pre-AEW, I would have said he could have probably gone and done pretty much anything he wanted to. Like, I would have seen a hell of a lot. But since then, I don't know. Something's I've called on him slightly, and I'm not sure entirely why. But I think maybe I would maybe be tempted to put him in NXT and just make him this big bad Donnie who's just kind of come in and do big bits there. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're on the money. NXT would be the perfect place for him to debut, get that big push, like you say, be NXT champion. If Bron Breakker goes to the main roster, for example, there's your next big muscle man that can come in. He can do the Brock Lesnar style moves. He can do the Batista style moves. Give him that 6 to 12 months in NXT, then push him and expose him on a Raw and SmackDown when certainly a portion of that WWE audience knows and sees what he's done in NXT. Because, like you say, if he comes to Raw and SmackDown and starts dominating everybody when he arguably can't get out of Ring of Honor currently when it comes to AEW. When he does come into Dynamite, he loses to even the smallest of guys. That's why I've called off of him at this particular moment. It's not like his Lucha Underground days when the dude was an absolute animal. And now it feels it's not. So I agree. I think you're on the money. NXT is the way to go. Start it that way, then give him that push on a Raw SmackDown, because when he then would be called up at that point, if put in the right spot, he would have a chance to succeed. Because like you said, he's got that look. He's got something that's different to offer to the table. He's quite versatile for a big dude.
Yeah. He's a bit. It could be similar to how when they signed Bobby Roode, and it felt very much like Bobby Roode was there temporarily. Like to me, it always felt like with Bobby Roode, it was like he came in, he was straight into the title picture. You could see it happening. It happened. He won it. He did really well, and then once it was that time, he left. And it could also be not I don't want to say transitional, but that kind of vibe where he comes in, he has this whistle stop tour through NXT where he comes in, has a bunch of great matches with people who are coming up, and then maybe, I mean, if he's going there soon, maybe Carmelo Hayes beats him down the line for the title or something where you go, okay, that's worked beautifully. Someone gets a big push because they beat up a massive bloke, and then he can go onto the main roster and do something. I think that's probably the way I would go now. Now I'm talking more about it. I think that's definitely the way I'd go.
Yeah, I think it's a sensible strategy to go with Brian Cage as well. Fingers crossed, actually. Kind of hope it happens a little bit. I think he's been wasted for the last couple of years of his career, in my personal opinion. C Nation Dog says they should have had Powerhouse Hobbs beat Wardlow way back at Full Gear to win the TNT Championship, in my opinion. So all this hot potato stuff wouldn't happen. Fair point, although I enjoyed the Samoa Joe Wardlow program, so I suppose maybe I would have done things slightly differently, but perhaps maybe they could have still done Wardlow and Samoa Joe without that championship and perhaps Powerhouse Hobbs could have done it, or he could have perhaps beat Darby Allin in January. Maybe that would have been the right move rather than going through Joe, Wardlow, then to Hobbs. What's your feelings on the hot potato here?
I think they've been caught in this awkward position with Ring of Honor and trying to find what the heck to do with all this TV time with 18,000 champions. And I think that's been the biggest. I think the TNT belt and probably the TNT belt I think has been the biggest, has suffered the most from that, because you have a lot of mid-card titles all of a sudden with Ring of Honor also there, that I think they sort of just put it on Joe because it made the most sense to just sort of combine those. That way it's only one storyline you have to worry about for a while. Someone gets the rub of beating Samoa Joe down the line. Everyone loves Samoa Joe regardless, so, you know, it is what it is. I don't know. I think they have to go back to building it. I remember Tony Khan a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, maybe a bit more. He spoke about, in fact, I think it was during Sammy Guevara, when Sammy Guevara was about to win it, maybe, where he spoke about his philosophy in booking titles. It might have been on the AEW podcast that he do. And he spoke about, probably wasn't that Spit 2 kayfabe. I don't know. I'm chatting nonsense. I remember him saying that he only wanted people to win titles who were hot. And it's not like you don't give someone the title to sort of try and get them going. You only give someone who's going a title. And I feel like they've completely fallen into that trap with that belt, where it's like they've given it to a bunch of people who are good and people like and people think are good, but it hasn't been like this big obvious option that they did have originally. Like you say, when Cody was having it, Brody, even like say Guevara early and stuff. I think that it was always very obviously the time for that guy, and I think now it's just like bop, and it sort of lost the luster where it had it originally. And I think part of that is that problem of like, you've got so many mid-card things going on that it's just an issue. None of them are getting as much time as they need to. Wardlow was the champion for however long and wasn't defending the belt. I think you just have to get them separate. That's fine. Samoa Joe's gone now. He can have his stuff in Ring of Honor. That's great. Not to say he can't exist on AEW. You can, but let's really just focus in on these things, because you don't have a whole lot of TV time to do it. And let's be real, if it's going on Dark and Elevation, no one's watching it. So it just needs a refocus. That's all it needs. And eventually it will get there. Just give it. And Hobbs is a good guy to do it, to be fair. Hobbs can hold it for a while. And I think people see that Hobbs is good. QT gives them a little bit of room to keep it on him even longer than necessary. And then at some point, the obvious option will be the obvious option, whether it be Wardlow or someone else. And then you can pull the trigger again and it starts to mean a little bit more than it does right now.
Completely makes perfect sense there. I don't need to add anything on that. You said it perfectly. Remember when Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky did the hot potato last year? I think that's where the title got ruined. And where is Scorpio Sky? Scorpio Sky's injured, to my knowledge. Hopefully he's back some point soon in the near future. But obviously, that would explain a lot. And obviously, the hot potatoing begins. Obviously, as well with the Cody and Sammy as well. Even at the start of the year was a bit hot potato-ish as well. I'm just thinking about hot potato. Maybe do you want some baked beans and melted cheese? I don't know.
I genuinely am having baked potatoes for dinner, so that's very exciting for me. I'm prepped. I'm ready for it.
But just a lover to 92, thank you for checking us out. Says Dom is beating Ray and he'll retire. Certainly could be the case of what happens at WrestleMania. We haven't had the stipulation given to what we think will be a match of when that match will be made. Do you reckon that it will be the mask or retirement or both for Rey Mysterio against Dominic at WrestleMania 39?
I can't see him losing the mask until he retires. I don't want to see Dominic Mysterio bopping about with the mask. That's something I don't want to see. I get it, but I don't. I just can't be. I can't be dealing with that. He'll beat him, and it will be his sort of moment. I don't know. Dominic is what Dominic is. Dominic exists. I think he's good in a stable. I don't know if him breaking out of that as any sort of singles thing is the right way to go. So, I don't know. I don't know what to do with Dominic at all. I like what he's doing now. I think it works. I think what he's doing now works perfectly for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, to be fair, a Judgment Day style mask I think could be quite interesting. Just having the colours of the Judgment Day on that mask. I don't know.
As someone who likes purple, you've sold me.
It's true. That's true. C Nation asking, who is the Marty Jannetty, Gigi Dolan or JC Jane?
Oh, I feel harsh saying it about either, but Probably JC Jane, I would suspect. I think she's maybe slightly better in ring, but I think Gigi Dolan has. I think the crowd would get more behind her potentially.
Mm. There's an it factor behind Gigi. She's got a certain fan base that seems to be behind her. So I agree that I think she won't be the Jannetty long term. I think JC Jane would be of the two, but I think both they have a lot of time to have a bright future in NXT. So I don't really think it'll be either. But if you had to pick one, I think that the Jannetty will be JC Jane ultimately. She lost this week on Roadblock. Looks like they'll carry that on. If I get my way with the fantasy booking video earlier this week, a last women's standing match for Stand and Deliver would be quite sweet to see, and it could be a crowning moment to finish off that feud. But just to give a shout out to West Coast Podcast quickly, because I was on their channel with Zach's just recently, and I did this with pretty much 30 odd different tag teams. Who is the Marty Jannetty? And it was a lot of fun to do so. So if you get a chance to check that out, check it out on the channel. It was a lot of fun. Richard says, who do you think will be kicked out of Los Inaugurables de Japón? It's never easy for me to say. LIJ, I prefer, to be replaced by Great-O-Khan, Sanada, Hiromu Takahashi. Who do you think will be kicked out? If someone had been kicked out of LIJ tomorrow, who would it be?
It's weird. I can't imagine either of them out of it. They've both got such incredibly strong LIJ vibes that I can't imagine either of them. If you had to pick one, Sanada, but I can't imagine either of them outside of LIJ.
It just feels like a group that's always been perfectly put together. I don't see them being year after year. You come back to New Japan and they're still there. They haven't moved. Like Evil moved on, and then that was weird for a long time. I still never adjusted to Evil not being a part of that group. So for me, it's a hard one there to really to be replaced by Great-O-Khan as well was with United Empire, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a fun one, Richard. But I don't think I can give you a decent answer for that, my man. Ghost Spider says, imagine Drew McIntyre turns heel in 2023, wins the Money in the Bank ladder match, could certainly happen, and cashes in the Money in the Bank contract on Cody Rhodes on the same night. As that strong fantasy booking there. And do you know what? It's not outside the realms of possibility, really, when you think about it, obviously being in the United Kingdom as well there. What do you reckon of this booking?
I like a lot of it. Apart the heel thing in the UK, I think people would just cheer him. So it would be interesting. I don't think they would do it purely for that reason. I think even if he did turn heel at Money in the Bank this year, it being the UK, he's just going to be too over. I don't think it would. I think they'd have to do it another night. They'd have to do it another night because you could do the heel turn and then cash it in even on Monday on Raw or whatever, wherever it. I don't think. Yeah, it's not in the UK. I don't think Raw. So they could do that anywhere else, and that would work. But or you could tease it. But I don't think you could do the actual cashing because I think people would just cheer it. And I think if your idea is to put him heel, I don't think they on the UK soil is probably the day to do it. I don't mind it though, and I'll tell you what, a Drew win at Money in the Bank would go. Not that they need to make up for it massively, but would go some distance given what they did at Clash at the Castle. I feel like giving him a win at Money in the Bank would be an easy dub for WWE to do.
Yeah, it would definitely be a sensible move. My only pick was Gunther, but I mean Drew I think would be a top shout as well. Then obviously I imagine all of the names will be in there. Sheamus, Finn Balor this year, I think to appease us fans. But at the same time, like, for me, I love the idea because I think Drew McIntyre turning heel in 2023, but winning Money in the Bank ladder match and then cashing in Cody on the same night. I suppose if you put the heel turn after at the end, then I think you make it work because saying he cashed in. It's a heel move to do it, but he gets the babyface reaction on the night. And then you could build the story the following week on Raw, for example, because that's when you have Cody go, dude, what'd you do? Like, why didn't you just face me straight up? I would have given you a title match. And like Drew's like, well, it was the hometown crowd. The moment got ahead of me, all the rest of it. And then Scottish kiss, steel chair. We can start building it further from there. That's the only way I would tweak it. But I like you said, it's an easy dub for WWE if they were to give Money in the Bank. And the more I think about it, the more I like it. And to be fair, the more I think about a heel Drew McIntyre, the more I like that as well. I think it's been long overdue. C-Nation says he would love to see that Drew McIntyre wants a moment in front of the crowd so much that he goes crazy and does anything possible to do it. That's obviously a good logical explanation for it as well. This C-Nation liking that. They're liking people getting involved with the questions as well. That's quite fun to see people's opinions as well. Eric says he needs Malachi Black versus Omega versus Jericho now. Obviously, we've got the trio match next week on Dynamite, which for me does sound quite a tasty match in Winnipeg, Canada. as Tony Khan must have said on his promo about 50 times last night.
Yeah, Malakai's another one of those people who I feel like I like the House of Black, but I just think you could do so much with him. But that as a specific match would be delicious.
Yes, put it on a plate with the hot potato. We'd serve that quite nicely. We'd like to see it. Ghost Spider says possible spoiler: Roman Reigns will retain at WrestleMania. Zero News report: WWE currently deciding about triple threat match between Cody versus Roman versus Seth Rollins at Backlash. Interesting, because that would suggest if Seth Rollins was to get into a triple threat match at Backlash, that Seth Rollins would probably have to defeat Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Obviously, Zero News reporting it. So, I mean, what would be your thoughts on this if this was to go down?
I'd like to see the match. I suspect Roman goes away once he loses for a while, for a bit. And so so the only way that would work is if he retained, I guess. I don't know. I really like Seth. I think he should beat Logan. I think Logan is due a loss, and I think Seth Rollins is like good. I think just that's fine. I think you should. I don't know. I mean, I've got a lot of emotions about this one, and I'm not sure where they lie. It's something I've got to stew on a little bit. Think about for a while.
Should we come back to this question later on in the stream?
Yeah, go on then. We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it.
I'm cooking something.
You're cooking. I'm going to say my opinion quickly. I think that if Roman retains at WrestleMania, he's keeping that championship until past King and Queen of the Ring, because he will make the 1,000 days then as champion. I'm of belief he will lose that championship at WrestleMania at this moment, but certainly Cody versus Roman versus Seth, do sign me up. I would be quite invested with that. And obviously we've got an opinion here that Roman is not retaining as well here. So it seems to be perhaps a popular notion that Cody would win the championship. But Ghost Rider, we'll try and come back to that question, Charlie. If something gets cooking and a microwave dinking, comes off, we'll go straight back into it for you. And we'll see where we go for it. But in the meantime, C Nation says Tony Khan loves to have small wrestlers beat big wrestlers. Jungle Boy Jack Perry beat Brian Cage twice. Darby Allin beat Samoa Joe. And Orange Cassidy beat Big Bill. All true facts there. They did win all those matches. There's not really much I can add to that.
He just loves small gentlemen, huh? It's just the way it goes.
They must be very nice guys. That's all we can say. Don will be the greatest heel in wrestling if he parades around with the mask. He's certainly doing well, especially with the prison stuff as well. Absolutely. Alyssa in the house. Alyssa, thank you for checking out the stream. Hope you are doing well. Says, is me not into Rhea Ripley in Charlotte doesn't deserve to be the main event. Wish they would add Liv Morgan. She'd have the red carpet being part with Chucky, also being at the screen premiere. The Queen deserves to be added more attention. I'm not understanding the last bit there, Alyssa. I do apologise. But I suppose Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair is expected to be the main event of night one of WrestleMania. Alyssa would like Liv Morgan added to this match, which probably is unlikely to happen at this point. But what are your thoughts on this situation? Are you happy with Rhea versus Charlotte? Do you think it needs something else like a Liv Morgan? Where do you stand with this? I
like Liv a lot, and I would be happy to see her added to it. Do I think it needs it? Probably not. Although I'm kind of at the stage where I'm just sort of over Charlotte. I think I need just some time. I don't know. We had time earlier on, but I feel like I just need some time away from her being like the big thing. And I think her being the big thing at Mania is a little bit frustrating. But then again, it just is what it is. I think she's so good, but I've just seen enough of it for now that I would quite like to see her ebb and flow. But that's going to be at Mania regardless, right? I like Liv a lot. Adding her to it, I don't think it would necessarily take anything away from that, but potentially a little bit like when Charlotte got added to the Becky Ronda match. Was it Ronda? It was, wasn't it? Yeah. I don't think it adds anything particularly either. Although it'd give Liv Morgan a big moment, but I do like Liv a lot, so I'm not against it.
No, I'm a big Liv Morgan supporter as well. They're easy for me to say, but obviously the Rhea Charlotte story for me, I think I'd like to see Rhea defeat Charlotte convincingly at WrestleMania. Not necessarily a squash, but like within 5 minutes, almost like that Brock Lesnar kind of treatment of a main event, where it's in, do the big moves and get out, because it just shows then that Rhea's just not gone, up to Charlotte's level. She's gone beyond it, and she's the top one going forward. That's what I'd like to see. But I don't think that will happen, though. I think it's going to be probably a 25-minute match. Nubico says JC Jane is definitely the marty of the two because the promos are horrible. That's an opinion there, certainly. I do think JC is still... I'm going to put this in the right way. She's still getting used to the promos. Obviously, she's not had the spotlight on her own for so long. She's obviously been in the background of Toxic Attraction, but hopefully she'll improve more with time with those promos.
I think I don't know why, but I feel like she's slightly better in ring than Gigi. But I feel like having one without the other is always a bit awkward anyway. I don't necessarily disagree. It's just one of those things that get time. Some people it comes to super quick. Some people it doesn't. Yeah. And she's one of those people that doesn't come to super quick, and that's fine. She's going to have time to work on it, and then eventually there will be at least a serviceable level where it works, right? That's all you really need at the end of the day. All you really need is just to be serviceable, and you're good to go.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with that 100%. Then obviously Roman wasn't good at promos at one point, and look at him now. They're quite good, aren't they? Yeah. Ghost Spider says, hot take, Grayson Waller is a Miz or MJF wannabe. Oh, Ghost Spider, not a fan of Grayson Waller.
Look, there's worse people to want to be. There's worse people to want to be. I probably wouldn't say it myself, but there's worse people to want to be.
There is worse people I suppose to want to be. I think Grayson Waller is obnoxious, and I think he plays that role quite well. He knows how to get under the skin, doesn't he? Ghost Rider wants to see Shinsuke Nakamura return the SmackDown after WrestleMania. It's been a long time since we've heard that glorious entrance music of Shinsuke Nakamura. I would love to see Naka make a return.
Me too. I love him. He's beautiful.
He is indeed there. Seriously wishes they kept him and Rick Boogs together. I do as well. Now Boogs is taking notes from Jobber Elias. Yeah, it's an interesting storyline, the Boogs and the Elias one. But I do like the way that Boogs kind of, outdone Elias this week on Raw. Now Elias will take another L next week to Bronson Reed.
Yeah, Boogs is... I don't know what's going to happen with Boogs going forward, but he's just so immensely likable. I almost don't care what. Just have him about doing whatever, and I'm sort of happy with it. Just because he's great. He's Boogs. He's Boogs. Full stop. He's Boogs.
He's Boogs, and he does his thing. For me, I like the partnership with him and Nakamura, but even when Pat McAfee's around, for me, that's always quite nice. Elias has not been around a long time. Taking notes from him isn't bad. It's not bad taking notes, but I mean, Elias could do with a couple of L's, a couple of W's rather. He's definitely getting the L column certainly. But I'd like to see him do a show doing a duet off. I think that would be quite fun. Just them, with the guitars, and they could make a segment with that. Vegeta says Grayson is actually different from MJF by quite a lot. I mean, I would agree with that. They are. If you want to be it. Which is the comment that's been made there, then fair enough. But obviously, if you look at where they currently are, they are obnoxious, but in different ways for me. I do feel that MJF goes on the cheap heat where Grayson Waller is the millennial social media, Instagram live kind of guy all the time, which, it has that vibe of it. I mean, I'm not a TikToker, so that probably says everything there in one fell swoop.
Get on TikTok. What are you doing? Get swiping. Come on, Steve. Come on.
I need to get with the times, man.
The dances and the no. Okay, fair enough.
I've got two left feet. It's my problem. Shahid says, I disagree with Roman Reigns retaining the undisputed title. It should be the American Nightmare. Cody Rhodes will take this at WrestleMania. Goes Hollywood. If you had to put you on the spot right now, what would be your prediction for that main event at WrestleMania? Do you see Cody doing it, or do you think Roman retains?
I think Cody does it. I think it's all makes sense. It's all building to it. The time is right. The person's arguably right. I think it is. I think it's going to happen. I think they've come too far with this to not make it happen. I think if they weren't going to have Sammy do it, then it's definitely 1000% going to be Cody. Absolutely.
I think so as well. Now, we'll just double check if anything has been brewing further with the idea of this report from Zero News and where the digestion lays at this point.
It's somewhere in the tracks. I mean, I feel like... What a disgusting metaphor I've decided to go with there. I feel... my problem... Yeah, No, I'm probably going to back. Because I think Cody is going to win. I think Cody is going to win because I think if you're going past that, then you have to ask yourself who is it that takes it, and I guess the answer is Gunther. But then Roman has to turn face because Gunther's the heel. So like, I don't see that happening. So at that point, it's just a sort of like, here's a vibey match in the meantime, which is great. Not against it, but it's like, I don't know. I need something more than that. Although that would be a very good match. And if that's not going to happen now, again, I don't know when it would happen to some extent.
Yeah, it would feel like the timing would work quite, especially with Cody and Seth's history as well there. So it makes a lot of sense on that level. But we'll have to wait and see if it will or won't happen. But I mean, we said there of people to take the championship from Roman if it's not Cody. I mean, for me, then you go full circle with Jey Uso at this point because Sami Zayn's out of the picture. So I mean, I feel my prediction for my last stream we did was that I think Jey saved Sami. Well, he attacked Sami Zayn, but not to rejoin the bloodline, but to save Jimmy.
I think that's exactly, that's the way I read it, right? He does it to save Jimmy. I think at Mania, probably Sami and Kevin go over for the titles, and there's a moment after where Jay and Sami have a moment, basically, that's like, this is yours, hanging over the belt, that kind of thing. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I've been pretty convinced of that for a little while. I was a bit not concerned, but I was like, they might actually pull the trigger on Sami. They didn't, and so I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I could see that happening, and then I could see if Roman loses his championship, that massive turn and break up of the bloodline on the following Raw or SmackDown. C Nation says that Charlotte Flair needs a break from the title, but she doesn't need to take time off. She needs to stay there and not be the big thing. I think that's a fair point there. And Charlotte is the GOAT. She's always has a title because she's a winner. Can't argue with that. She's been the champion multiple times. For me, with Charlotte Flair, I think she's great in ring. We have had a break. For me, I just want to see her against Bianca Belair. That's the match I want to see at this point. I feel that, I don't think we've had a proper program of that. Again, it feels like a WrestleMania match, which means probably we'd have to have another WrestleMania main event. But I think people, like you say, are probably tiring of seeing her in the main event. But we are where we are. Ghost Rider says, do you think John Cena buried Austin Theory on Raw?
No, John Cena was John Cena, right? I don't think John Cena can really say anything that'll bury anyone because everyone just looks and is like, oh, it's John Cena, he's back, isn't he? I don't know, probably not. I don't think it will do Austin Theory any harm. I think if anything, in this specific scenario, if it was someone else, it might be an issue. If it was a different legend, it might be an issue. But I think specifically getting involved with John Cena is only a win for Austin Theory. I can't see it any other way.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, John Cena did what John Cena does, and I think they must have big plans for Theory. If they're saying like he's not connecting with the way, and what does he do afterwards? They must have something majorly in mind for Austin Theory after WrestleMania. It'd be interesting to see what they do. I want to go back to Jones's questions before I forget at the top there, because I don't want to miss them out. But Charlie, are you good to go for about another 20 minutes or so?
More than happy to. More than happy to.
We'll get through as much as we can in the last 20 minutes. But first question, because George actually got 4 of them, but they all kind of link together quite nicely because it's all to do with Bray Wyatt. Should Lashley have said no to the Bray feud?
Probably, but controversially, I don't know if anyone should say yes to the Bray feud. But yeah, probably. Unless he gets a win, which I don't think he's going to do. Probably.
No. He probably should have done, but at least he's not selling stuff so far. Lashley's kind of like, he's even made Howdy look kind of like nothing. Do you know what I mean? So, but then that probably doesn't help the storyline in any way, shape, or form either. How would you debut the White Six stable at WrestleMania?
Maybe Lashley goes over and then he comes out. I don't know. I want to see Bray go back to being a little bit less full stop. I don't know how to word it, but like when he first came back, I was like, right, this is a really good opportunity to sort of maybe rein it in a little bit because I love what Bray does, but I felt like it had just gotten away from him, and I think it was too much, and I think there was too many different things and too many different wires going in all different directions, and I felt like, just put us back in, tidy it up a bit, make it a bit more grounded, and you are good to go. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it started a little bit that way and then has proceeded to go in all directions again, and I'm a little bit like, okay, we're back where we were. I feel like I think again this is another opportunity where we could again just pull it back a little bit, tidy it up a bit, and we can move forward. And putting some people around him would maybe be a good way of doing it, because then it can just be focusing around the group and they can be the extra characters, as opposed to having 15,000 people in different weird hats and costumes running about and people jumping off of things through tables. Do you know what I mean? Uncle Howdy's just, oh, he's at the top of that thing now, he's jumped off, oh, there's Rambling Rabbit and that's sat on top of the thing. Like, I feel like you could just pull it in a little bit, and I feel like that's probably the way I would do it. So maybe you have him lose and then the stable come and fight in, or maybe you have him squash because the stable come in and help him or something, and then that can sort of tidy it up a bit and make it a bit more focused than it is now, because it's a little bit all over the place for me. I don't know, I've been a little bit disappointed by Bray's return, I'm not gonna lie.
I think that answers this next question. Have you enjoyed or disliked since the Bray return, or what have you enjoyed? But obviously, like you said, it's been a bit all over the place. So, I mean, if there was some of the highlight bits, what would be the highlight part for you of Bray's return? And is it the current stuff now with how it's kind of made it disappointing? What's been the high and the low for you?
I think all of the early stuff, I mean, his return in general was really strong, with like the ARG bits and all of these different things kicking off that weren't even on the show. It was just like a split second, and then everyone just goes on Twitter and tries to figure out what the hell's going on. All of that was really strong and really intriguing, and him coming back and having almost a Cody style promo of talking from the heart kind of thing, I thought all was really good. And apart from that, the spectacle of Bray is always incredible, and I think that's an underrated part. I speak to some of my friends who are like, say, super into New Japan or super into work rate stuff, and I feel like sometimes they miss how good sometimes that spectacle can be, of like his entrance at Rumble with the door and coming through it, and obviously he had the paint on, which was a little bit whatever, but like, and then the match was in a hue that I wasn't expecting. But you know, whatever. Pitch black, right? Mountain Dew, let's go. But like the spectacle of his entrance and all this stuff is like so good, and I think like all that stuff could be super effective. My bigger problem is just it's the madness that surrounds it. I just feel like it's so much, and I'm a big fan of hokey nonsense. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying no hokey nonsense. But like, I just feel like it's. I don't know. Maybe it's a house. I just think it just needs to be reined in a bit. That's all I think. I think highlights wise, I think his return was really good. It just needs to be a bit more grounded for me, and then I think we're good to go.
I think that would be something make a lot of sense, and try and tie up those loose ends, like you said, because all the different directions that have not connected together, from the White Rabbit not really making so much sense to what we've gone with for me the slow and stop storytelling. Like, I understand long-term storytelling, but just doesn't feel like there's that thing that's happening a lot of the time. We took a long time to get to where we needed to, with Howdy coming in, to the acceptance of being on the dark side, and we've had Howdy attack Bray Wyatt as well, which for me was a real big disconnect, because he attacked him and now he seems to be best friends with him. So it leads to another question of, does the Bray Wyatt storyline insult fans' intelligence? Has it been that bad as Jonesy could be suggesting here?
I don't think it insults fans' intelligence. I think it's just, how do I word this? I think what we were talking about earlier with the idea of filters, I feel like it needs a filter. And I think there is never anything that doesn't work better with an editor. I've often see it spoken about with like books, for example, and how someone's like, oh, this person doesn't need an editor, blah blah blah. Everyone needs an editor. Everyone needs someone to just go over their stuff and sort of filter it down and work it down and get to the good bits. And I feel like with Bray, there's a little bit of that, where I'm not saying there's no one, he's just doing whatever the hell he wants, but I feel like there needs to be some sort of collation of things, because like you say, when Uncle Howdy's attacking him and all this stuff, and we're left just thinking there like, what's going on here? And it never comes to anything at all. It just sort of goes in 15 different directions, and I feel like it would be better being more focused. Because like, when I think best, I don't know about you, but when I think Bray Wyatt at his strongest was Firefly Funhouse, and then when he first got main roster, that like Wyatt family character, and I feel like that stuff is all very focused. It's when the Firefly Funhouse got over, and then all of these different elements of it could exist in different realms, that it's just like, oh my god, all these things are happening and none of it really makes much sense, and he's saying things, and I never mind his rambling weird promos, but like now in this context it's all a bit wild. I don't know. I don't think it's Sultan fans' intelligence. I just think, if anything, I think it's a waste of what could be such a unique thing in professional wrestling. But by doing so many different things, it becomes, listen, it's still unique, but for the wrong reasons.
I think you make a lot of good points there with that, and like insult intelligence, I think it was a step too far, because there are people that are enjoying it for one, but obviously, like you say, if you just get it where it's back on the right path, fizzle out the bad, get into the good, realize of where the direction you were trying to go with this from the start. Because obviously, I don't think Bobby Lashley was the initial plan of WrestleMania. It doesn't feel like it. I mean, there seems to be rumors that Brock was the one that was rejecting a match there, so I don't know where that would have worked either. So it's interesting to see where it's going to go. But I mean, Jonesy had wondered how we'd reveal Uncle Howdy as well. Would we bring Vincent in? I mean, for me, I would not keep Uncle Howdy. I'd keep Howdy as Howdy. I wouldn't reveal him for me, because it's, although Lashley did say for the first time this week, it's not, which probably undermines that character even a little bit, actually, it's a dude under a mask rather than this mystical thing that's Uncle Howdy, because that's what he was presented before. It's like an unstoppable monster. Now, all of a sudden, he's a dude under a mask. So should he be revealed?
Yes, and it's Bad Luck Fale. He's come in and he's going to be running about as Uncle. No, I don't think so either. I think you have to keep... At some point, at this point, I feel like maybe you have to, but then what happens? They take off the mask, and it's like, oh, it was, I don't know, it's obviously not his person, but just pick a name out of habit. Oh, it's Dominic Dijak. Here he is. It's Dijak. He's here to do what? Do you know what I mean? I think it lessens it. I think you either have to keep him under the mask permanently, but he's too involved at this point to feel like he can't be revealed. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe just reveal it and get it in front of it. I don't know. It's Bad Luck Fale. If it's not Bad Luck Fale, I'm not interested.
There you go. I mean, I was going to talk about Bo Dallas for a second there, but obviously probably shouldn't do
sure,
that, because that would make people undermine it as well. Do you Bo leave? And do you start seeing B team, go, go, go? It's I'm not sure where you go with it. So, but Josie, hope we've answered those well enough for you anyway. But C Nation goes on to say it's crazy to think that Cody Rhodes will be the one to end the greatest world title reigns in history. I was not expecting that, because he was in AEW when the run started. It's good point that's been made there by C Nation. You would not have picked on day one for Roman Reigns on that title reign that Cody would be the one.
No, considering how I'm going today, I probably would have picked Bad Luck Fale, apparently, given my vibe today. No, it's kind of wild to think about it. I think he played his cards perfectly, did Cody. You got to respect it. He had his hand, and he went, let's go with the gambling metaphor they bloody love in AEW. He got his poker hand. Can you tell I play cards? And he played it perfectly. You got to respect it. Can't trumps with it, any.
Absolutely. Could say it was a royal flush. I'm here all week.
It's good.
Is it? I'm not sure. If it is.
No,
if you
I'm
are,
loving
then
it. I'm loving it.
If you like it, peeps, hit that like button. Ghost Spider 2003 says, imagine Logan Paul and Grayson Waller being a tag team one day. Goodness me, the heat that would be on these two would be unreal. There seems to be a lot of heat on both of them already, probably for different reasons. But I mean, I wouldn't be against the idea of it.
Yeah, it'd be interested to see.
Yeah, wouldn't say no to it. Richard's back once again there with another possible spoiler. Take with a pinch of salt. Bianca Belair at Mania. Then Kiana James challenges her at Backlash, if only. Charlotte Flair retains. Then Zoe Stark challenges her at Backlash 2023. If only they could come up. But what I would say is, of the two there, Zoe Stark has more of a chance for a call-up for me than Kiana James at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. I quite like Zoe Stark. I think there's something. I think she could... I think she has a chance on the main roster of doing something legit. We'll see, but I think she will. But I agree. I think Kiana James is too early. I think Zoe Stark's probably, if not now, when? It's kind of my answer. Can't ask a question.
Yeah, it's a good point there. I could see it definitely. And to be fair, her and Charlotte would be an awesome match as well. So I actually quite like the match suggestion. Shahid says, if you were Triple H, will he make new change if American Nightmare Cody Rhodes was to hold both championships, create different storylines, different direction? That I believe. I mean, Cody, I think if he was to win the championship, would ride that momentum of what Cody does best. You know, imagine he'd still be the guy that goes, "So what do you guys want to talk about?" I can't imagine he would change that shtick so quickly. But I suppose he would have to freshen the character up after a while, because I could see fans that would sour on it by like a year down the line. I don't think Cody could go on and do a road Roman Reigns and hold the championship for like nearly 1,000 days.
Yeah, I think the difference between Roman and him is that Roman had the wave of being finally a heel that helped him, and then when that started to lose its luster, which I think it personally, for me at least, it was, Sami Zayn came along at the perfect time, and I think it was the storylines he were involved in were so perfect and so built brilliantly, and the bloodline was just, everything just came together in this culmination of rare. I don't know. It just doesn't happen very regularly, right? And I think with Cody, it doesn't have the mechanics there from the get go. So it would have to be a little bit similar to what happened in AEW, where by the end, the last 6 months of AEW, the crowd reactions were very mixed, and then by the time he left, were basically just people booing him. I suspect that would happen, but Cody is the perfect heel. I did a video about this, one of the only videos I've done on my wrestling channel. Jesus, I need to do more. But I spoke about it when I was talking about CM Punk. I'm like, he's the perfect heel. He has this pomp and circumstance. He's Dusty Son. He walks about in an American flag, which I know is different in America, comes across differently in America than it does in the UK. But like, he has this vibe of him that he thinks he deserves it. And I think with him at the belt, I think he can be a babyface and then he will just eventually turn heel. It just has to be, unlike in AEW where they never really lent into it too strongly and went with it, just go with it. Let it happen. And I think it would do wonders and allow him to hold that belt for longer and allow him to be on that top stage longer.
Yeah, it could almost cement the legacy of Cody going forward if you could just run with it, you know. So yeah, I'm totally down for that. You've got, imagine that Solo and the Usos turn on Roman the Friday night after SmackDown. Solo declares himself the new tribal chief. Then it's him versus Roman at SummerSlam. Must admit, I have a very similar idea in my fantasy booking video I did of the breakup of the Bloodline, how it should go down. But it was Jey Uso rather than Solo, and it would be 3 years at SummerSlam since they first fought. Obviously, Clash of Champions 2020, the full circle. But I do like the idea of Solo as well, because Solo, I mean, he's still not been pinned or submitted, and Solo is a beast. Well, what would be your thoughts on this idea of this turning on Roman Reigns and obviously setting up a big match for SummerSlam? Because I imagine once Roman does his part-timer, he'd probably take a break till around SummerSlam time.
Yeah, potentially. I think Solo, the thing is, obviously, whoever beats Roman the first time is huge. Whoever beats Roman the second time is also big. And I think if they were to have him lose again straight away, I would doubt it, but it would be a big deal. And I think Solo going over on Roman would be really good. Solo, they clearly like him a lot, and I think he's destined for a big run when they finally pull that trigger. He's destined for a big run. I don't know how soon it is, and would beating Roman be too soon potentially? Would he have to go through something first to get there? I don't know. I'd be interested to see though, because I think they clearly have something planned for him, because like you say, he's not getting pinned, he's not losing, he's doing a thing. So
He's doing a great tribute to Umaga with some of those moves as well. There, I'm loving what he's doing. Des Reynolds, thank you for checking out the stream. Says when's Adam Cole back? He will be doing his first match when the same day that they do AEW's All Access show, which will be premiering the last Wednesday in March. The date escapes my mind, but I believe it's the 29th. So that's when to expect Adam Cole back in a wrestling ring. C Nation says Bray Wyatt challenging Brock Lesnar or Bobby Lashley to match at WrestleMania still makes no sense to me. Doesn't me either, to be honest. It just doesn't connect at all. Ghost Spider says, well, I know it's early to predict for WrestleMania 40, but he wants to see Brock Lesnar versus Sheamus at that show. That'd be a banger of a match. I'd like to see that. Is there any matches that you think like, oh, that would be good for next year's WrestleMania?
The only one I have in the back of my mind is Sammy versus KO. I feel like they're probably, in my head, they're winning the tag team titles at this Mania, and then hold them for a while. It ends up splitting up, and it probably ends in a one-on-one at next year's WrestleMania. I think that could be really big. I think that could be really good, and be sort of their magnum opus of their sort of their feud over decades at that point. I think that's sort of like the big finale for them, potentially. That's the only one I've got in the back of my mind. And I don't know, Gunther versus Bad Luck Fale. Imagine. Big chops all over the shop. Let's go.
I'm down for it. Both matches. Add a world title for Sami Zayn and KO, and you've definitely got me hook, line, and sinker for that. I would love to see it. Richard back once again says Bobby Lashley says no and will not challenge Bray Wyatt. He will actually challenge LA Knight instead. One can only dream. I would actually prefer that, if we're being brutally honest. But he says that makes no sense, C Nation. But hey. Well, it is what it is. Let's go then with this comment here from C Nation. Says Bray Wyatt's run has been bad. Why is Uncle Howdy attacking Bray Wyatt, and then next week they are best friends? It makes no sense, really, does it? Let's be fair.
I don't know. It's sometimes things don't have to make sense for you to enjoy them. This, however, just doesn't make any sense, and I'm not really enjoying it. But sometimes things don't have to make sense. I like West Ham. That doesn't make sense, and yet here we are.
Here we are. And in fact, I'm doing that as well. Though we did win today, so we'll take that. But
big dubs.
Yeah, we'll take the big dubs when they're there.
We're massive.
Okay, so
massive.
We are massive. In fact, as I've said, I've put the links to all of Charlie's channels in the description of this video. Why not subscribe to all of them, and that you can keep up with Charlie's fantastic content that he's doing with his watch alongs. Can come and support us West Hammers, if for those at stateside.
Yeah, if nothing else, you'll see a man be quite sad a lot of the time. And I feel like Schadenfreude is a strong vibe. You know what I mean? We'll be losing, it'll be awful, and then you'll go, look at that guy, he's sad. Get involved. That's my selling point.
There may be an occasion we're happy. So I'm hoping we're happy more than we're not. But that is a selling point. Make sure to subscribe. It's definitely worth it. You will not be regretting it. KXI says, yo, what's good, everyone? Thank you, KXI, for checking out the stream. Hope you're doing well. We are in the final 10 minutes, though, of the stream, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to wrap things up. So let's get through every question between now and then. Bray debuts his faction at Mania versus Bobby Howdy, attacked by Bray for him to change it back. I mean, at this point, anything to try and make this to make sense. I'm willing to listen. Wrestle Boom in the house. Hope you're doing well, Wrestle Boom. Bobby Lashley should have faced Brock Lesnar or Edge at WrestleMania. Edge would have been a fascinating match to have seen there, but I would have, definitely would have gone with Brock one more time to have a conclusive finish, because those two they never even nearly reached that potential of what they have or what they could have done for a match, in my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like one more would have been good. I love it as a pairing. I feel like Brock. I remember a story. I think it was Seth. Yeah, it was Seth who said he wanted to go out. I don't know if he said it or someone said it about Seth and Brock when they had a match, and he said, and he was like, he was really up for having a match of the night thing, and Brock was like, there's no point. Other things are happening on the card that people remember. There's no point in doing it, sort of thing. And I feel like Brock with Bobby, I feel like Brock is the unmotivated one out of that. I think Bobby would have Bobby would probably want to go out and have an absolute banger, and Brock would probably be like, what's the point? So it's an interesting. I love the combination though, and I do like just big blokes hitting each other. So in that instance, run it back again. Let's go.
Let's do it. We're here. We're here for it, and hopefully they can book it next time than what they've done previously. It's Bo Dallas under the mask of Uncle Howdy. I believe you are right with that. I can't see it being any other way. And Bobby Lashley versus LA Knight at WrestleMania. Richard, we're hearing you, but I don't see it happening. How do you feel about MVP teasing a new Hurt Business? Says Rick Joe. Hi, Rick, by the way. Hope you're doing well. So we had a picture on Instagram with MVP showcasing almost Carmella Hayes and the Street Profits. For me, that seems like a really cool idea of a new Hurt Business. I still would like to see Lashley added to it. But I will just give a quick quote to Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Alliance, who quoted on his Instagram post of that, "You don't do business without profit." How do you feel about it?
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm very for that. If anything, just what you've sold me in a single sentence there. I'm really for it. I like the Hurt Business the first time. Run it back with new people in it, and really give them people a push. I think a stable in WWE can go a long way in that. And like you say, I would like to see Bobby maybe at the forefront of that. But I think that's a really good idea. I'm super for it.
I'm super for it as well. Although I do kind of agree with this as well, though, from WrestleBoom. Carmella Hayes should defeat Bron Breakker at Stand and Deliver. I do think it's time to crown a new champion. I think Carmella Hayes is ready for that spot.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe he comes up as champion. gives
Yeah.
NXT a bit of that rub. I mean, look, they're clearly open to giving NXT a rub with Johnny and look, Jinder and other main roster people. I know they're slightly different levels, but other main roster people appearing on NXT. You could have it the other way, a bit like how KO comes up, beats Cena down, stands on the title, holds up the NXT title. Maybe he's not the Lashley position because he's obviously not Bobby Lashley, but maybe he's the sort of the figurehead, the forefront of that stable, Hurt Business, going, look, this is the guy, and he's up as champion and championships proof, and that gets him in with a lot of people who people like. I don't know, maybe there's something there, but I think he should beat Braun as well. I think it's time for him.
I do as well. And I really like that fantasy booking idea, by the way. That's a keeper, that one. Braun Breaker versus Goldberg in his final match. If Goldberg gets one, that would be a good option. I actually recently been going through the old WCW collection, and I saw the classic Scott Steiner versus Goldberg match, which I believe was Fall Brawl 2000, where Steiner annihilated Goldberg. I would be down for seeing Breaker do that to Goldberg in his final match.
I don't know who I want for. I think Goldberg will probably get one more. I don't know who against though. I've got no idea. That's a strong shout though. Braun. Who would benefit from beating him? Who would be fun in that match? Braun's a great shout. Braun is a great shout for that.
Braun is a great shout. John Cena versus Goldberg would work at like one of these, like, I don't know, shows where you just have big names on. But yeah, at this point, like you say, who gains anything out of it? That's the thing. Jake, thank you for checking out the stream. Says, how do you feel about the two indie stars that were backstage on Raw? I wonder if they get signed. Victor Benjamin, Lady Frost, and Kayla Sparks. I was not aware of any of them being backstage at Raw. We'll have to wait and see if any of them do get signed. I'm not aware of Victor Benjamin, I must admit. I have seen Lady Frost in Impact. Kayla Sparks I'm aware of, but haven't seen much of her work. Do you know anything about these three?
I'm in the exact same boat. I think I've probably seen Lady Frost. I know the name for some reason, but I wouldn't be able to pick. I probably don't know much about them to say anything.
No. Hopefully for them, it'll be good to see if they do get signed, and hopefully, if Victor is, hopefully he can cut promos. Unfortunately, we can't. If it feels bad to not say we can't give you a good answer on it, but on that one, unfortunately, we can't. Imagine
there's nothing wrong with admitting you don't know stuff. No. I've built a career on it. I don't know. I don't know.
There you go. Simply, we don't know. Imagine Braun Strowman and Omos as a tag team in the future. Would they go against flippy floppy wrestlers?
Yes, and I'm here for it. Let's just get again. I can't act. Look, I love a work rate match. Okay, I do. Give me a 60-minute Okada match. Maybe not every day. That might be a bit much, but give me a lot of them. Just put Braun and Omos every week against some random jobbers from somewhere, wherever you're at, and just have them lob them about for a while. And I'll tell you what. I'll be entertained. I'm fine with that. I'm good with that. That's good with me.
Absolutely. I still remember the day with Braun Strowman and James Ellsworth. That worked really well at the time. So, yeah, why not do it? That would be good. In fact, Almost probably would do well under in a team with Braun Strowman. Probably wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, actually. WWE ruined Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. They certainly have with the 3 matches that they've done. It's a shame that we've not got the conclusive victory that we want. But I think, would we say that Crown Jewel was as good as it got?
Probably. I don't think it's ruined only because I think they could run it back and it still be fine. And I think people would be like, right, okay, cool, right, let's do it. Let's get it. Let's get what we should get from this. But they didn't knock it out of the park in the way they should have.
Yeah. No, I agree. They could run it back if they wanted to, and I still actually want them to run it back just so we can get one good match out of it. But let's do 4 final comments, and we'll wrap up the stream in the next couple of minutes. Nubico TV says, wasn't Lady Frost the person that got destroyed by Asuka years ago during Asuka's undefeated run? She might have done. I think I'm going to use one of your famous answers here. I don't know. But maybe she might have done though. I certainly remember from Impact. She's a very talented in-ring performer, actually. So it would be good if she does get signed by WWE.
Here's another one. Noob & Co? Maybe.
There you go. Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe. I'll look it up on Cage Match after and we'll find out, but maybe.
I'll leave it in the comments of the video. I think that's the best way we can do then at that point. We've got one more spoiler from Richard with the pinch of salt. Braun Breaker should beat Carmelo Hayes thanks to Grayson Waller. Then Carmelo gets a revenge on Waller after Stand and Deliver victory for Grayson. It's not the worst idea in the world, you know. but a spoiler, I'm not sure. My opinion, Gunther or Big E should win the 2024 Royal Rumble match. I am not against that idea at all. I'd be happy with either.
Yeah, I would be too. I'd be very happy with either, to be honest, at this point.
It would be quite fun. Jason Mike says, what up, everybody? Did you hear Kane wants to come back? If so, what do you think Hunter should make him to a manager or a faction? Him versus Cross versus Damian Priest. Lots of different ideas there. Kane, should he come back? And if so, what should he do?
If there's a space for him, sure, to do something to put someone over. I'm sort of like, I only want to see people used if there's a reason for them to be used, sort of thing. Like one of my biggest criticisms of WWE in the past was that, you know, they bring someone back, say like Goldberg, and then they give him the title, and then he's the center of everything. And it's like, like with Kane, it's like, sure, I could see it as like a one-shot thing, but then again, that's like a special attraction thing. I don't know. Would I want to see him back? Listen, if as a one shot against one of those people who can put over, sure, why not? It's fine. But yeah, I wouldn't want to, unless he's doing something regularly that makes sense. I wouldn't want to see him back just for the sake of him being back. Yeah, I don't know. Is he still mayor? I'm not sure.
I think he is still mayor at this point. I do see he's upsetting a lot of people on Twitter at a regular basis at the moment, which might be a good reason not bringing it back as well at this moment. But I agree with you. If he's going to come back, make use of it. You know what I mean? That's what I would say. Make some use of it. Cross Priest, they could do with a win over, you know, the big red monster. That would do him some form of favour. Kyle says, how do we feel about Gunther? His aura, his entrance is so badass and potential future WWE champion. I think we've already explained at length in this video that we think Gunther is arguably the next big thing.
Yeah, I love him. He's the best. Give him every belt forever, ideally, or at least for a bit. You know, all of them. Bring back the 24/7 championship, put it on him as well. I want him holding all. I want, you know, the Ultimate Dragon picture, the one where he's got all the belts. I want that, but Gunther, with just every single belt. That's what I want. With
every single company, not just WWE. Yeah, all of them. All of it for Gunther. We love him. C Nation Dog says, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley should have ended in a trilogy of matches, ideally at WrestleMania. I'm going to add to the end of that comment. But hey, it is what it is. We've had movies that go to the 4, so why not have that? You know, we've had Saw 4, Scream 4s, all sorts of 4s. The final 4, the Fantastic 4. I'm going to stop.
Film 4, Channel 4.
There you go. There's loads of 4s. Opinion on Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, I like him. It will happen at some. I suspect it will happen at some point. It feels too obvious not to, and I think there's too much smoke going on to there not be a fire. So I think it will happen at some point. I like him. Makes sense.
Absolutely, I agree, 100% agree. Last comment then from Chris Williams, then we're going to wrap things up here. How do we feel about Keith Lee, his new look? I do think he's getting a new character with Dustin Rhodes. Yeah, they've got a tag team now, haven't they? Like the The Natural Limitless or something. That god-awful name. Why put Keith Lee towards the championship picture for me? That's what I want to see. I'm a big Keith Lee fan, but for some reason it's just not connecting. I don't know what it is.
I feel like this is another one of those ones where they're just going to wait on it for a while, and then eventually it'll be him and Swerve against each other. As something for him to do between, sure, I guess it's not what I would have gone with, but he's good enough and fun enough to where I think it will, whatever he's doing will be good. And at least he's still on television. You know, it could be a significantly worse situation where he doesn't get used for whatever reason. So I'll take it for now, but I think it should be like everyone in the chat is saying, like I was saying, I think he should be I think he is a single star. He is a champion in waiting. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, it's connecting the dots to get him to that position. But not a big fan of the team with Dustin Rhodes, but the guy is awesome. That's pretty much where we're going to leave it out there. But I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has watched this stream. Hope that everyone has enjoyed it. And I want to say, if you've enjoyed this video, then please do consider hitting the like button, share with a friend as well, and subscribe to the channel. But also, why not subscribe to Charlie's channels? All 3 of them are in the description of this video. A Top Lad, a Top Mark, and also Hammer's Chat. Charlie, I want to say a big thank you for taking the time to come on, because I mean, you've already done like a 3-hour stream today already, so the fact you've come on for another 2 hours, just goes to the testament of how dedicated you are to the cause and why people should subscribe to you. But if anyone is not familiar already, please remind everyone once again.
Yeah, so you can find me everywhere all of the time, annoyingly. If you like football, West Ham, but otherwise, I would highly recommend you check out Hammer's Chat. It's the West Ham channel I run with a couple of my friends. I do watch-alongs on there alongside other videos all of the time. We upload several times a day. It's a pain in the ass. We do a lot of things. That's the main thing. I have another channel called A Top Lad, which I don't really know what I'm doing yet. I've got like 6 videos that are unfinished. It's more just random stuff. The last video I did was on a BBC show called Waterloo Road. The video before that was on a video game. I don't know. I do random stuff on there. At some point, that's going to be a thing. And then, more importantly for everyone here, A Top Mark is a wrestling channel which is happening the second I have time. Unfortunately, I'm at the end of some big projects, but once they're done, then we're back and we'll be rocking and rolling, and God knows what it looks like. And I'm sure at some point, I'm putting him on the spot now, but I'm sure at some point I will be reaching out to Steve and getting him on the channel as well for a little collab at some point, which would be fun. But yeah, that's a vibe. A Top Mark. Thank you very much for having me there, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you haven't already subscribed, if you're here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you doing, guys? What are you get involved? Come on, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. What are you doing?
I appreciate the kind words, and when that day does come along, Charlie, always feel free to give me a shout. Would love to collaborate again. It's been a lot of fun having you on, and yeah, it's. I honestly we could have done this for another 2 more hours, but unfortunately, it's getting pretty late for us now, so we do have to wrap things up. But I want to say a massive thank you to everyone again that's been watching. Like I say, there'll be more content coming on the way. If you've not checked out the Q&A from earlier this week, we're talking more about Monday Night Raw, Revolution, stuff like that. There's plenty of good content in there. One thing I didn't quickly mention though before, it was Bad Bunny, of course, is going to be involved with Backlash. He's going to be the host for that show in Puerto Rico. First time a Puerto Rico show since 2005, and that's going to be a very exciting crowd, a very exciting time. Looking forward to seeing how that will play out. But we're going to wrap things up there anyway. Thank you everyone for watching. Look after yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time. All the best. Thank you for watching.